The story begins in the middle of a massive battle. Countless warriors charge toward a single opponent, the heavenly demon himself. As they rush at him wave after wave, he senses their bloodlust and fear. Despite their terror, they remain determined to kill him, so he decides to grant their wish. His strength far surpasses theirs. Anyone who comes close dies instantly, while warriors descending from the sky are reduced to nothing but blood that stains his clothes. Watching endless waves of enemies approach, he finds their confidence almost laughable. Fighting completely unarmed, he effortlessly keeps every opponent at bay, demonstrating the overwhelming power of the demonic art of soul strengthening. He then unleashes its strongest forbidden technique. Massive demonic hands erupt from the ground and tear through the battlefield, wiping out an entire army in an instant. The surviving wounded warriors realize they never stood a chance. The demonic limbs destroy everything they touch until nothing remains on the battlefield. Satisfied, the heavenly demon realizes he has eliminated the last people who sought his life. Silence finally falls, but victory brings him no joy. His entire life has been stained by blood, leaving him unable to enjoy the peace he has won. Suddenly, intense pain spreads through his body. He clutches his chest before coughing up blood, realizing the price of using the demonic art of soul strengthening has finally come due. The overwhelming power he gained by absorbing thousands of souls is now consuming him. Although he believed he could endure what previous heavenly demons could not, his confidence proves to be misplaced. Countless souls appear around him as chains emerge from the darkness and bind his body. No matter how hard he struggles, he cannot break free. The souls he absorbed begin dragging him toward the underworld. Even while suffering, he laughs and refuses to submit, declaring that no one will ever conquer him. At that moment, a mysterious sphere appears and touches his body. Brilliant white light engulfs everything as his body slowly disintegrates. In his final moments, he realizes the demonic art of soul strengthening is far more than a technique for absorbing soul. Accepting his fate, he hopes that if he is given another life, he will choose a different path and finally find the peaceful life he never had. His wish is granted, and he is reborn. He awakens beside his maid, Suso, who urges him to eat before the food gets cold. Instead of responding, he instinctively tries to behead her with his bare hand. However, the frail body of the second son of the Golden Wall merchant clan is incapable of such a feat. His failed attack only enjures Suso, who has grown tired of his strange behavior and scolds him until he agrees to eat. As he struggles through the meal, he is shocked by how weak his new body is. Even eating rice is difficult, while his delicate feminine features feel completely unfamiliar. The servants try to comfort him, mentioning that a highly skilled doctor will soon arrive to examine him. When even that fails to lift his mood, Suso encourages him to stay positive, hoping it will help his recovery. 10 days have passed since Baektasen awakened in this fragile body. He's now the second son of the most influential merchant clan in Wuhan. Remembering those first moments, he recalls waking in an unfamiliar room surrounded by elderly physicians. He quickly realized he had entered the body of someone so weak that he could not even dress or feed himself. His appearance irritated him, but the greatest problem was that his meridians were completely damaged, leaving him on the verge of death. He knows there is only one way to survive. By temporarily reconnecting his damaged meridians with his own power, he can gradually restore them. However, doing so requires practicing the demonic art of soul strengthening. Problem is obtaining soul. In his previous life, he would have simply killed someone, but that path would eventually lead him back to the same suffering. Having been given a second chance, he refuses to repeat those mistakes. Before his death, he gained a deeper understanding of the demonic art of soul strengthening. If he cultivates it differently this time, he believes he can reach a level of power no heavenly demon has ever achieved. With that in mind, he tells Suso that he wants to go out. She happily agrees to accompany him anywhere until he reveals that his destination is a brothel. Embarrassed and caught off guard, she suggests sending his bodyguard, Kyongyun, instead. Since Baektasen had never shown any interest in such places before, she finds the request especially strange. He assures her he will behave properly and even invites her to come along, but she immediately refuses. By evening, he is ready to leave. Suso remains puzzled by how differently her master has behaved since waking up, especially now that he suddenly wants to visit a brothel. While waiting outside, he asks where his bodyguard is. She explains that Kyongyun spends all his free time training to better protect his master and will arrive shortly. She also expresses hope that Baektasen will not lose faith before the doctor comes. He does not understand why she says this, but he can clearly sense her genuine concern. Ever since entering this body, he has become able to perceive the emotions of others. Moments later, he senses someone approaching. Quiet footsteps and powerful internal energy come from beyond the gate. Although Suso notices nothing, he immediately knows his bodyguard has arrived. When the gates open, Kyongyun steps inside, bows respectfully, and greets his master after being summoned for the first time in a long while. The moment Baektasen sees him, he realizes this man is far from ordinary. His internal energy is remarkably pure, making it impossible to believe he is just an ordinary guard. He can also sense the countless hardships Kyongyun has overcome to reach his current level. From this alone, Baektasen concludes that the Golden Wall clan is much more than a simple merchant organization. The two mount their horses and ride through the city until Kyongyun announces that they have reached their destination. They arrive at Fragrant Flower House, one of the 3 finest brothels in Wuhan. After tying up the horses, Kyongyun escorts his master to the entrance but intends to wait outside. Baektasen immediately questions that decision. If something happened inside, there would be no way for the bodyguard to protect him from outside the building. He orders Kyongyun to stop arguing and accompany him inside. Kyongyun still refused, explaining that he could not enter. This frustrates Baektasen, who cannot understand why his bodyguard would refuse a direct order. He points out that Kyongyun should either enjoy himself while protecting his master or, at the very least, remain close enough to do his duty. Faced with such insistence, Kyongyun finally gives in and follows him inside. As soon as they enter, a line of courtesans welcomes them. After choosing his companions, Baektasen is led to a private room where the women entertain him with music and conversation. After a while, he notices that Kyongyun is no longer inside. He discovers the bodyguard standing outside the room, guarding the entrance. One of the courtesans offers him wine, but he politely declines, saying he is not feeling well. Instead, he lets the women drink at his expense while asking them to tell him everything they know about the second son of the Golden Wall clan. Taking turns, they share every rumor they know. From them, Baektasen learns that he inherited 1,000 gold coins, a small estate outside the city, and several brothels. However, because of his poor health, he possesses neither influence nor authority, and nearly everything has fallen under his older brother's control. It is common knowledge throughout Wuhan, but he would never have learned these details by staying at home. Once he has gathered enough information, he moves on to his real objective. Since dealing with everyone at once would be difficult, he selects a single courtesan named Huaryong, the woman who had been playing music for him. As they leave together, the remaining women quietly wonder why he chose only her. Inside the private room, Baektasen asks how long she has worked there. When she tells him it has been about 10 years, he realizes she is exactly the person he needs. Meanwhile, the other courtesans pass by Kyongyun while discussing their guest. They doubt such a frail young man could accomplish much, though they admit he is exceptionally handsome and hope to spend time with him themselves someday. Their conversation suddenly stops when loud screams come from the room. Even guests in nearby rooms hear them. Many assume the young master possesses incredible stamina, while the brothel staff apologize that the soundproofing failed once again. In reality, Baektasen is absorbing Huaryong's negative soul energy. The painful process causes her screams as he draws out the energy he needs. When he finally leaves the room, Kyongyun immediately checks whether his master is alright. Baektasen calmly assures him that everything is fine before leaving the brothel as if nothing unusual happened. The other courtesans rush inside to check on Huaryong. To their surprise, she appears completely transformed. Her skin glows, her features become even more beautiful, and she feels unusually light as though she has been reborn. The women assume Baektasen must have given her some rare elixir, but Huaryong cannot remember what happened. Back at the Golden Wall clan, Suso sweeps the courtyard while worrying that her master may have collapsed at the brothel. Soon, Baektasen returns looking perfectly healthy. She can hardly believe he truly visited such a place and eagerly asks how everything went. Instead of answering, he suggests she question Kyongyun, then quietly returns to his room. Although still confused, Suso is relieved to see that he looks much better. Once alone, Baektasen closes the door and begins meditating to refine the energy he collected. By the end of his cultivation, he successfully restores several minor meridians. Although the results fall short of his expectations, he considers it an encouraging start. Before dying in his previous life, he had realized the true flaw of the demonic art of soul strengthening. Absorbing souls through killing inevitably produces severe side effects that eventually destroy the user's body. Instead, he discovers he can purify the negative emotions from living souls and absorb only their negative energy. This is the purest form of demonic energy, and the stronger those emotions are, the greater the result. Huaryong, whose life had been filled with hardship, allowed him to confirm this theory. Unfortunately, his current body is even weaker than expected. To continue restoring his meridians, he realizes he will need to visit brothels repeatedly. As he continues returning to the Fragrant Flower House, the courtesans happily welcome him each time. Being both handsome and the son of a respected family already makes him popular, but after spending time with him, every woman's appearance noticeably improves the next day. Before long, many consider him the finest gentleman in Wuhan and eagerly hope he will choose them. However, the owner of the Fragrant Flower House is far less pleased. Despite repeatedly improving the soundproofing, every one of Baektasen's visits still attracts complaints from other customers. The women constantly compete for his attention, and the strange noises from his private rooms continue to spread throughout the building. She also finds it suspicious that someone who had been close to death suddenly behaves this way, especially when he chooses her establishment instead of the brothels owned by the Golden Wall clan. The head of her intelligence network, Phantom Shadow, suggests investigating the Golden Wall clan. She rejects the idea, knowing that probing such a powerful merchant family would only create trouble. Instead, she orders him to focus on Bektasin himself and uncover what truly happens whenever he is alone with a courtesan. During another visit, Bektasin looks over the women he has already met before asking that every courtesan in the house be brought before him. The manager insists that only the finest women are already present and that the rest are not worthy of his attention. Bektasin disagrees. He notices one particular girl and declares that he alone will decide who deserves his attention. Ignoring the disappointment of the other courtesans, he walks directly to Denian and chooses her for the night. The women are stunned that he selected the least favored among them, assuming he simply has unusual taste. In reality, Bektasin senses that Denian possesses an extraordinary amount of negative energy. Although absorbing it is dangerous, he is willing to take the risk. After restoring his key minor meridians, he now intends to use her soul energy to repair his main meridian. The moment they enter the room, however, he notices someone secretly watching them. Smiling faintly, he calls Kyonggyun over and asks to borrow his sword. Without hesitation, he throws it toward the hidden observer. The blade pierces the ceiling, and moments later blood begins dripping down. Kyonggyun is initially confused until he realizes someone had been hiding above them. Knowing the spy is still alive, Bektasin orders Kyonggyun to finish the job. Denian trembles in fear as blood spreads across the floor, but Bektasin calmly reassures her that his bodyguard will handle everything before telling her that he intends to draw out every bit of her negative soul energy. The story then shifts to the Yang clan. A guard reports to his mistress that Bektasin has once again visited the fragrant flower house. Curious, she asks what nickname he has earned there. Embarrassed, the guard admits that the women now call him the Night King, the Lord of Flowers, and the Unrivaled Lover. Hearing this, the young lady immediately orders preparations to visit the fragrant flower house herself. As the only daughter of the Yang clan and Bektasin's fiancé, she intends to meet him in person. After dealing with the assassin, Kyonggyun returns to escort Bektasin home. On the way, he senses an unfamiliar aura surrounding his master. Bektasin calmly asks what happened to the assassin, and although Kyonggyun is surprised by his master's unusual presence, he replies that the man has been imprisoned. Pleased with his decision, Bektasin praises him and says they should return home so he can rest. As they walk in silence, Kyonggyun cannot stop questioning whether this is truly the young master he has always known. It is not only his changed aura that troubles him. Bektasin had detected a hidden assassin and even managed to wound him. Everything about him feels different, but Kyonggyun keeps his thoughts to himself. Meanwhile, Bektasin reflects on his own progress. Restoring one of his main meridians has greatly improved both his body and his senses. 6 main meridians still remain damaged, but at least he is no longer as helpless as before. He never imagined he would be satisfied with such a small improvement, yet his perspective has clearly changed. His thoughts are interrupted when he notices a young woman staring at him. Although he does not recognize her, she walks over and asks whether he visited the brothel that day. Unsure how to respond, he remains silent, believing she must have known the original Bektasin. The young woman, Jan Heron, assumes he is acting distant because he dislikes their engagement and wants to push her away. Only then does Bektasin realize she is his fiancée. She steps closer, takes his hand, and promises never to leave him, asking only that he not abandon her in return. Completely confused, Bektasin explains that he has never tried to push her away. His answer fills her with joy because she interprets it as an acceptance of her feeling. Realizing she only hears what she wants to hear, he politely ends the conversation and leaves. Even he cannot believe a single young woman has made a former heavenly demon feel so uneasy, making him regard her as a surprisingly dangerous opponent. As they continue walking, he notices Kyonggyun has deliberately moved far ahead. The bodyguard's flushed face makes his embarrassment obvious. Later, while Bektasin is bathing, Suso brings up his meeting with Jan Heron. She explains that the other maids saw them together. Judging by her smug expression, Bektasin quickly realizes that Suso was the one who informed Jan Heron about his whereabouts. The conversation then turns to Kyonggyun. Suso reveals that he has long been in love with Jan Heron's personal bodyguard. Bektasin finally understands why Kyonggyun had hurried ahead earlier. Instead of mocking him, he simply smiles. In his previous life, such feelings were unimaginable to him, but now they no longer seem meaningless. He believes this change is likely the result of his soul merging with Bektasin. That night, he heads to the prison within the Golden Wall trading clans estate. Kyonggyun has already sealed the assassin's meridians, but he warns that the prisoner is still extremely dangerous. Bektasin ignores the warning warning and asks to be taken inside. The moment he sees the assassin, he realizes the man's soul is overflowing with negative energy. Assassins possess some of the most dangerous souls, and such powerful negativity could greatly strengthen him. Now that one of his main meridians has been restored, he wants to test whether he can absorb it. To do so, he needs complete privacy. Kyongyun refuses to leave. Unwilling to abandon his master with such a dangerous prisoner, Baektasen dismisses his concerns, pointing out that Kyongyun had not even noticed the hidden spy earlier. Even so, the bodyguard insists the situations are different and continues trying to persuade him. Irritated by his persistence, Baektasen orders him outside. After leaving, Kyongyun reflects that whenever he faces his master now, it feels as though he is standing before a supreme martial artist rather than the sickly young master he once served. Moments later, loud screams echo from inside the prison. Realizing they belong to the assassin rather than Baektasen, Kyongyun can only wonder what is happening. Inside the cell, Baektasen attempts to absorb the assassin's negative soul energy. However, the process is far more dangerous than expected. The assassin's soul is too deeply corrupted, forcing him to stop before the backlash injures him. Disappointed, he realizes he is still too weak to handle someone with such overwhelming negative karma. He concludes that after negative karma is purified, only pure soul energy remains. However, when a soul is excessively corrupted, the negative energy becomes inseparably mixed together, making it impossible for him to absorb safely at his current level. For now, he decides that gathering energy from the courtesans is the only practical option. The story then returns to the fragrant flower house. Its owner grows increasingly concerned because Phantom Shadow has been missing for 2 days since following Baektasen. Her assistant suddenly rushes in and reports that Phantom Shadow has returned, but something is terribly wrong. The man appears to be suffering unbearable pain. Alarmed, she orders his condition to be examined immediately. The assistant strikes several acupuncture points to inspect his body, but the moment he touches him, Phantom Shadow's flesh begins rotting before their eyes. Both of them step back in horror as his muscles, skin, and organs rapidly decay into foul-smelling sludge, leaving only his skeleton behind. The owner immediately concludes that Baektasen is responsible. Determined to avoid provoking him further, she orders Denian to be brought to her. Her assistant reminds her that Denian was supposed to be sent to the leader of the Crimson Dragon sect. Instead, the owner decides to present her to Baektasen. The assistant warns that canceling the arrangement could provoke the Crimson Dragon sect into destroying the fragrant flower house, but she accepts the risk. For now, she believes sending Denian to the second young master is the wiser choice. As time passes, strange rumors spread throughout the fragrant flower house. People claim that anyone who spends a night with Baektasen becomes noticeably more beautiful the following day, almost as if they had been reborn. They also develop an overwhelming desire to remain close to him. Some begin calling him a deity descended from heaven, while others believe he is a sorcerer using forbidden technique. At first, most dismiss these stories as nothing more than exaggerated gossip among the courtesans. Denian is one of the few who knows the rumors are true. Having experienced his ability herself, she sincerely wishes to serve him, believing he may truly be someone extraordinary. When the head courtesan hears this, she assumes Denian has simply fallen in love with Baektasen. She even wonders if he intends to pay off her debts and take her away. However, she reminds Denian that until her debts are cleared, she still belongs to the fragrant flower house and should prepare to accompany the leader of the Crimson Dragon sect instead. Before that can happen, the owner's decision changes everything. Denian suddenly finds herself standing at the entrance of the Golden Wall trading clan instead of being sent to the Crimson Dragon sect. Although relieved, she worries whether Baektasen will accept her or simply see her as someone who has already been used by others. Even so, she still hopes to meet him again. At the same time, Baektasen quietly meditates in his room until a knock interrupts him. Suso informs him that visitors have arrived. When the door opens, he immediately recognizes Denian. Remembering her name, he calmly invites her inside. Denian immediately bows and greets Baektasen. She explains that she wants to become his servant because he gave her a new life she never thought possible. Wishing to devote herself entirely to him, she asks him to accept her. Baektasen quickly notices how different she looks from before. Cleansing her negative emotions has completely changed her. He then asks Suso where Denian is staying. After learning that she sleeps in the servants' pavilion, he orders another residence to be prepared for her near his own quarters. Suso is stunned that her master truly intends to keep a former courtesan as his personal servant, but she accepts his decision. After giving his instruction, Baektasen quietly leaves. Suso finds the situation difficult to understand. Not only has such a beautiful woman willingly become a servant, but her master has also been acting strangely ever since since he awakened. She cannot shake the feeling that his unusual behavior may somehow be connected to his declining health. Later, Baektasin visits the House of Falling Flowers, another of the 3 finest brothels in Wuhan. He immediately likes its name and looks forward to gathering more soul energy from the women there. Before entering, he informs Kyongyun that they will likely be visiting this place regularly. Just then, someone calls out to him. It is the leader of the Crimson Dragon sect, furious that Baektasin has taken Denian away from him. As soon as the man appears, everyone nearby quickly distances themselves, knowing better than to provoke someone so dangerous. At first, Baektasin does not know who the man is until Kyongyun explains his identity. He also points out that the Crimson Dragon sect is one of the local unorthodox sects. To Baektasin, however, they are nothing more than bandits hiding behind an impressive name, so he suggests ignoring them. The sect leader becomes enraged after being ignored, mocking Baektasin for his frail body and questioning where such a weak young man found the courage to disrespect him. Those words awaken the pride of the former heavenly demon. Baektasin despises his own fragile body, but he has no intention of letting someone like this insult him for it. After laughing at Baektasin's silence, the sect leader assumes he has nothing to say. Baektasin calmly orders Kyongyun to handle the accompanying warriors while he deals with their leader himself. Kyongyun hesitates, knowing he will have to face 2 skilled martial artists alone. The sect leader also mocks Baektasin, claiming he only hides behind his bodyguard. He even offers to forgive him if he returns Denian. Baektasin refuses and remarks that his opponent talks far too much, adding a sarcastic insult that immediately infuriates him. Unable to control his anger, the sect leader charges forward with the intention of killing Baektasin, or at least ruining his face. Seeing the attack, Kyongyun rushes to protect his master, but he realizes he will not reach him in time. Baektasin calmly stretches, raises one hand and blocks the attack. With a single strike, he knocks out several of the man's teeth and sends him flying. Although he deliberately holds back because his body cannot withstand using its full strength, the blow is still enough to kill the Crimson Dragon sect leader instantly. By the time Kyongyun reaches him, he has already defeated the remaining warriors. However, he spared their lives, which disappoints Baektasin. He tells Kyongyun not to be so soft-hearted in the future and orders him to kill the survivors before following him. Before leaving, Baektasin gives one final instruction. If anyone investigates the incident, Kyongyun is to claim responsibility for the killings because Baektasin has no desire to attract attention. After watching his master leave, Kyongyun stares at the bodies in disbelief. Baektasin had killed the Crimson Dragon sect leader with his bare hand in a single blow. At that moment, Kyongyun realizes that capturing the assassin earlier had been no coincidence and begins wondering who his master truly is. As usual, after another night at a brothel, Baektasin wakes at dawn. Examining his body, he realizes it remains in terrible condition. Nearly half of the energy he had accumulated was consumed during the fight. Unlike his previous life as the heavenly demon, this body cannot withstand even moderate strain. He admits to himself that he acted recklessly, but his former pride would never have allowed him to tolerate such insult. When he returns home, he is surprised to find Jan Heron's bodyguard calmly drinking tea prepared by Denian. As soon as Baektasin arrives, she greets him politely. He glances between Denian and the tea, before remarking that she clearly did not come simply to enjoy a drink. Once Denian leaves the room, Jan Heron's bodyguard asks whether Denian is the maid who came from the brothel. Baektasin confirms that she came of her own choice and has no intention of explaining himself further. Instead, he asks why she has come. Remaining composed, she notices his untidy clothes and correctly guesses that he has just returned from another brothel. Though clearly disappointed, she delivers the real reason for her visit. She informs him that his engagement to Jan Heron may soon be dissolved. A marriage proposal has recently arrived from the Yongli clan of the Martial Alliance, and after learning of Baektasin's recent behavior, Jan Heron's father has begun considering ending the engagement. Although no final decision has been made, Jan Heron strongly opposes it and is doing everything she can to stop it. Baektasin quickly realizes this is not the only reason she came. He correctly guesses that she has been sent because the family fears the Yongli clan may target him. She confirms his suspicion and explains that she has been assigned to protect him. This request does not surprise Baektasin. He remembers the Yongli clan as people who abandoned other clans and fled during the battle against the heavenly demon. He is almost surprised they still exist. More importantly, however, Jan Heron's bodyguard will now remain by his side, giving him a chance to see what she is truly capable of. Later that night, Baektasin heads out again, pleased that he has finally found another suitable source of negative soul energy that may allow him to restore another main meridian. He also notices that Jan Heron's bodyguard has been watching him closely. He tells her that if she no longer wishes to follow him, she is free to leave. She remains silent, so he allows her to continue accompanying him, knowing others may assume he intentionally involved her. Suddenly, Baektasin comes to a stop. Before either of his guards understands why, he calmly remarks that several enemies are already surrounding them. At first, Kyongyun cannot sense anything, but moments later both he and Jan Heron's bodyguard detect the hidden presence. Baektasin calmly counts 4 enemies. Realizing they have been discovered, the hidden figures abandon their concealment and step out before him. Kyongyun immediately reaches for his sword, but Baektasin tells him to wait. The apparent leader politely asks Baektasin to accompany them. He is slightly surprised that members of an unorthodox faction are behaving so respectfully. Before responding, he asks Kyongyun to judge their strength. Kyongyun immediately evaluates their leader. From the man's aura and the faint scent of blood surrounding him, he concludes that he is no ordinary fighter. Even so, Kyongyun estimates that he is still at least 3 levels stronger. Satisfied with that answer, Baektasin decides it is time to test his theory. He orders Kyongyun to make his move. Kyongyun immediately releases his aura, causing the enemies to tremble under the overwhelming pressure. Unable to resist, they can only watch as he calmly walks past them without giving them a chance to react. The group's leader laughs at Kyongyun for facing him alone. Although he acknowledges the impressive aura surrounding the bodyguard, he suggests avoiding unnecessary bloodshed by peacefully surrendering. His words prove meaningless, however, as he suddenly attacks, aiming for Kyongyun's head. Kyongyun calmly draws his sword and immediately drops low, targeting his opponent's legs. After exchanging several blows, the enemy realizes he has greatly underestimated him. Seeing that ordinary techniques are not enough, he begins using more of his internal energy. Watching the fight, Jan Heron's bodyguard prepares to help, but Baektasin calmly tells her the battle is already in Kyongyun's favor and will end with a single strike. His prediction is correct. With one decisive attack, Kyongyun severely wounds his opponent. Jan Heron's bodyguard is stunned. It took only 5 sword strikes to defeat such a powerful martial artist. Baektasin, however, is still dissatisfied. In his opinion, Kyongyun is too merciful because he only severed the man's arm instead of killing him. Jan Heron's bodyguard is equally surprised. Although Kyongyun has always been skilled, he has never displayed strength like this before. She even wonders whether Baektasin gave him some kind of miraculous elixir. Her thoughts are interrupted when Baektasin orders her to deal with the remaining enemies. Since he still has questions for them, he instructs her to block their meridians instead of killing them. With the enemies still frozen under the pressure of Kyongyun's aura, restraining them is effortless. However, she suddenly realizes one enemy is missing. At the same moment, Kyongyun shouts a warning to his master. One of the hidden assassins has slipped past everyone and is already lunging toward Baektasin with a dagger aimed at his throat. Fortunately, Kyongyun reaches him in time and stops the attack before it lands. Even so, Baektasin is displeased. He questions why Kyongyun chose to protect him instead of pursuing the escaping assassin. Realizing his mistake, Kyongyun immediately kneels and apologizes. In Baektasin's previous life, such an error would have been unforgivable, but this time he chooses to let it pass and orders Kyongyun to gather the remaining captives. Looking over the prisoners, Baektasin considers simply killing them. Desperate to survive, they promise to answer every question, yet when he begins questioning them, they suddenly fall silent. He immediately orders their execution. The threat works instantly. The prisoners confess that they belong to the Crimson Dragon sect and were sent by its deputy leader. They even begin revealing various crimes they committed that very day, including assaulting a man who refused to pay protection money and destroying an inn because their food was served too slowly. Finding their confessions almost ridiculous, Baektasin decides to spare them for now and orders them to keep talking as they accompany him. His guards can hardly believe that, after everything that just happened, their destination is still a brothel. Nevertheless, within half an hour they arrive at the House of Pleasure. While Baektasin spends the night inside, Kyongyun and Jan Heron's bodyguard stand outside guarding the entrance. The loud screams echoing from the room make Jan Heron's bodyguard wonder whether they should check on him. Kyongyun calmly explains that this happens every time the young master master visits a brothel and tells her they simply need to wait until morning. She quickly realizes this is apparently normal whenever Baektasin comes here. When morning arrives, Baektasin leaves the room and is surprised to see the captured spies still alive. He reminds Kyunghyun that he ordered them executed if they ever stopped talking. Kyunghyun explains that they never stopped confessing. During the night, they revealed they had been ordered to capture Baektasin and take him to the Crimson Dragon sect's headquarters. As for the assassin who escaped, only the former sect leader knew his true identity. Even Baektasin concludes that the man is clearly no ordinary martial art. An average guard would never have stopped, but Kyunghyun's unexpected strength changed everything. If the Younglee clan truly orchestrated the attack, the plan seems almost too obvious. Wanting time to think, Baektasin orders everyone to return to the Golden Wall clan with the prisoners. Upon arriving, he throws the spies into prison but realizes they first need proper restraints. To accomplish this, he decides to teach Kyunghyun and Yeon Haren's bodyguard a useful martial technique. Both are surprised that their physically weak master intends to instruct them, but Baektasin begins demonstrating a restriction technique that seals an opponent's meridians using precise control of internal energy. He explains that success depends entirely on maintaining perfect control, meaning constant practice is essential. Although neither of them has ever seen this technique before, they quickly grasp its principles. Baektasin then demonstrates it on one of the prisoners, warning him not to struggle or he will lose consciousness. The terrified man insists he has no intention of resisting, but Baektasin ignores his protests and immobilizes him anyway. After watching the technique take effect, Baektasin orders both warriors to practice it on the remaining prisoners. While observing Kyunghyun's training, Yeon Haren's bodyguard cannot understand how Baektasin possesses such advanced knowledge or why Kyunghyun obeys every one of his instructions without hesitation. To make sure the prisoners never consider resisting, Baektasin casually threatens to make one captive's lower body explode, terrifying them into complete obedience. The story then shifts to the Choso Pavilion, where Baektasin's uncle, Baek Woo Hyun, calls his son to discuss recent development. He first asks whether there is any news regarding the fragrant flower house. Although there is nothing significant yet, his son believes continued pressure will eventually force the establishment to make a mistake. Baek Woo Hyun is unconcerned with the detail. His goal is simply to exploit the current situation and secure greater profits for the Golden Wall trading clan. Since the fragrant flower house secretly operates as an intelligence organization disguised as a brothel, he intends to absorb it into the Golden Wall trading clan. They then discuss the Crimson Dragon sect. Following the death of its leader, an internal struggle for power has begun, and the sect appears ready to split into two factions. Baek Woo Hyun's son suspects a third party may be manipulating events, possibly the Golden Alliance of Heaven. Baek Woo Hyun knows how dangerous that organization is and orders his son to monitor it carefully. Although the Golden Alliance of Heaven appears to be nothing more than a coalition of merchant guilds within Wuhan, its true purpose is to oppose the Golden Wall trading clan. His son promises to investigate any suspicious activity immediately. After a brief silence, Baek Woo Hyun changes the subject and asks about the rumors calling Baektasin the Night King. He wonders whether his nephew has been taking some special medicine or tonic. His son has heard nothing of the sort. He simply believes Baektasin possesses extraordinary stamina despite his failing health. In fact, his constant visits to brothels probably shorten the little time he has left to live. Baek Woo Hyun remains unconcerned. Rather than pitying his nephew, he almost envies the carefree life of a young man who is already destined to die. The story then returns to Baektasin's residence. When Suso comes out to greet him, she is surprised to find him bringing several men back to the estate. Baektasin explains that the estate has been short of workers for some time, and since Suso had previously complained about the lack of manpower, he has found people to help. As she examines them, Suso immediately notices that something seems unusual about these men. Baektasin calmly acknowledges her concern and tells her it is entirely her decision whether they should remain and work at the estate. In truth, he simply remembered her earlier complaint about needing more workers. Suso remembers mentioning that the estate needed more workers, but she never expected Baektasin to bring back such unusual people. He introduces them one by one as Black 1, Black 2, and Black 3, explaining that they all came from the darkest corners of the world. The three men are clearly unhappy with their new name. Noticing their expressions, Baektasin demands an explanation. Terrified by his sudden pressure, they immediately bow and accept the name names without objection. Satisfied, he calms down and tells Suso she is free to use them however she sees fit before leaving. As he walks away, Baektasen realizes he has not seen Kyongyun for some time. He learns that his bodyguard is, as usual, training. Kyongyun continues practicing his swordsmanship while replaying his battle with the Crimson Dragon sect leader. He keeps thinking about the single strike Baektasen used to defeat such a powerful opponent and repeatedly tries to imitate it, despite never having seen that technique before. He reflects on joining the Dragon Sword Squad. Their duty has always been to protect the Golden Wall trading clan, and he has never regretted serving them. Even so, whenever his progress stagnated, he felt uneasy. Recently, however, everything changed because someone appeared who could help him reach an even greater level. Just then, Baektasen arrives and reminds him that the sun is setting. He tells Kyongyun to finish training because it is time to escort him to another brothel. Gathering his courage, Kyongyun finally asks the question that has been troubling him. He wants to know when Baektasen decided to stop hiding his true ability. He points out that his master discovered the assassin at the Fragrant Flower House, killed the Crimson Dragon sect leader with a single strike, and is now teaching advanced martial technique. For a brief moment, Baektasen is alarmed, fearing Kyongyun has discovered that he is actually the reincarnated heavenly demon. He even considers whether he should silence him permanently. Instead, Kyongyun suddenly drops to his knee. He explains that he has heard stories of geniuses whose damaged meridians concealed extraordinary talent. Believing Baektasen to be such a hidden master, he sincerely asks to become his disciple. Only then does Baektasen realize Kyongyun simply believes he has been hiding his true strength all along. Before answering, he asks why Kyongyun is so determined to become stronger. Kyongyun admits that he wants revenge against the people who destroyed his sect. Having lived through countless battles himself, Baektasen understands better than anyone that revenge alone leads people astray. He tells Kyongyun that many others have suffered similar losses, and those driven only by hatred eventually lose their purpose once those emotions fade. Instead, he advises him to pursue strength for its own sake. If he becomes truly powerful, revenge can be taken whenever the opportunity arises. Kyongyun carefully reflects on those words before bowing deeply and promising to remember them. Soon afterward, they head toward the brothel once again. Baektasen notices Yan Haren's bodyguard quietly following behind and tells Kyongyun to stop acting so timidly and simply speak to her. When Kyongyun pretends not to understand, Baektasen casually reveals that he already knows about his feelings for her. Meanwhile, Yan Haren's bodyguard cannot understand why these men visit brothels every single day. She also struggles to see what her young mistress finds so appealing about Baektasen. Suddenly, Baektasen stops. He smells blood in the air. Neither Kyongyun nor Yan Haren's bodyguard notices anything because they are relying only on their senses of sight and hearing. Baektasen immediately realizes the scent belongs to the assassin whose arm had previously been severed. Since he survived, he has most likely returned with reinforcements. He calmly tells Kyongyun that two assassins are nearby and orders him to eliminate one of them. Yan Haren's bodyguard is startled because she still cannot sense anyone. She only notices the attack when it is already upon them. Fortunately, Baektasen catches the incoming throwing knife before it reaches him. Without showing any concern, he calmly tells her to join the battle. She stands frozen in disbelief, unable to understand how such a frail man caught the hidden weapon so effortlessly. Baektasen snaps her out of it by pointing out her opponent's location. The one-armed assassin immediately attacks her. During the fight, quickly realizes she is far weaker than Kyongyun. His mocking words only anger her further, and she drives him back with a powerful strike before ordering him to surrender. As she steps backward, however, the ground beneath her collapses. A hidden trap explodes behind her while the assassin immediately rushes toward Baektasen. Only then does she realize the trap was merely a distraction. The assassin reaches Baektasen and thrusts his sword toward him. Despite the danger, Baektasen remains perfectly calm. He later remarks that moments like these reveal who truly lacks experience. The blade passes harmlessly through the narrow gap between his arm and body. Exploiting the assassin's brief confusion, Baektasen strikes him once in the neck, severing a vital blood vessel. The assassin drops to his knees, coughs up blood, and dies almost instantly. Yan Haren's bodyguard cannot believe what she has witnessed. A man with such a weak body defeated a skilled assassin with a single single precise strike. Bektasen sternly tells her to stay focused during battle instead of freezing in shock. He then orders her to bring the assassin's body with them because it may contain useful clues. After examining the corpse, she realizes the assassin truly died from one perfectly aimed strike. Looking back at Bektasen, she begins to believe she may have encountered someone capable of changing her future. Determined to uncover the secret behind his techniques, she decides to remain by his side. Afterward, they continue to the brothel. Bektasen concludes that Jan Heron's bodyguard is still too inexperienced to protect him properly. He orders her to begin training under Kyongyuan. She happily assumes that Bektasen is personally accepting her as a student and looks forward to training alongside Kyongyuan. Moments later, she suddenly realizes Kyongyuan is nowhere to be seen. They accidentally left him behind at the battlefield. Bektasen is completely unconcerned. He knows Kyongyuan can handle opponents of that level without difficulty. Meanwhile, Kyongyuan's own battle lasts longer than expected because his opponent proves stronger than anticipated. Even so, he eventually defeats him. Looking around afterward, he finds the area completely deserted and wonders where everyone has gone. The story then shifts to the Choso Pavilion. Beek Woo Hyeon learns that Bektasen brought several corpses to a brothel, and news of the incident has already spread throughout Wuhan. He is furious because he had planned to quietly absorb the fragrant flower house, but the growing attention has complicated everything. His son reports that the corpses bear very few identifying marks, making it impossible to determine who they were. The Crimson Dragon sect claims they merely intended to deal with Bektasen but denies knowing who ordered the attack. Beek Woo Hyeon believes they are simply hiding the fact that they were trying to avenge their former sect leader. Regardless, he insists the matter must be resolved quickly before it damages the reputation of the Golden Wall trading clan. He also realizes he has been paying too little attention to Bektasen lately. Reports indicate that his nephew's health has improved considerably. Even his son finds it difficult to believe that someone in such poor condition could suddenly recover so much after exhausting himself repeatedly. They suspect he may have obtained some miraculous elixir, but neither of them has any evidence. For now, they can only continue watching the mysterious changes surrounding him. Back at his residence, Bektasen gathers all of his subordinates for lunch. None of them dares to begin eating before their master. Bektasen reminds them that they are now his people and that he has already given them permission to eat with him. From that day onward, he orders everyone to share every meal together at the same table. During lunch, Suso shares the good news that the divine physician has finally arrived. The legendary healer is famous for restoring even severed meridians. Bektasen, however, believes a few more visits to the brothel will heal him faster than any doctor. His answer annoys Suso, who argues that he cannot recover by constantly exhausting himself. Rather than continue the discussion, he asks when the physician will arrive. She explains that the doctor is already in Wuhan, staying at a separate residence, and will soon visit the estate. Hearing this, Bektasen becomes curious because the description reminds him of someone he once knew. The physician turns out to be a white-haired young man standing atop a cliff overlooking the Golden Wall trading clan like a predator watching its prey. During the meal, Bektasen also praises the efforts of his subordinates. He mentions hearing that Black One has been working especially hard lately. Black One humbly insists he has only been guarding the warehouses as usual. Bektasen then tells Black 2 and Black 3 to work harder. Suddenly, Black One remarks that the young master looks much healthier than before. He has grown taller, more muscular, and no longer appears so pale. Bektasen immediately takes offense, frightening Black One into promising never to comment on his appearance again. Even so, Bektasen realizes the observation is accurate. His body has indeed improved considerably, proving that the demonic art of soul strengthening is working. Even so, he still needs to gather far more soul energy. By then, the divine physician has arrived at the Golden Wall trading clan. The clan's chief manager welcomes him respectfully and expresses his honor at finally meeting such a renowned healer. The physician politely asks to skip the formalities and requests to be taken directly to his patient. As they walk through the estate, the physician admires the magnificent residence, recognizing how much effort its owner invested in building it. Passing through one of the clan's finest pavilions, his attention is suddenly drawn to Denian, who is working in the garden. Her graceful movements and unusual aura immediately catch his eye. Curious, he asks who she is. The chief manager explains that she is now the young master's maid maid after voluntarily leaving a famous brothel to serve him. The physician then notices the other new maids and learns they all chose to serve Bektasin willingly. He quickly realizes they all possess an exceptionally rare physique. Their bodies are so unique that he openly admits he would gladly accept them as his own disciple. The chief manager misunderstands his interest and jokingly assumes the physician is simply captivated by their beauty. The physician corrects him, explaining that their value has nothing to do with appearance. Their physiques are extraordinarily pure, making them capable of flourishing regardless of the path they choose. He immediately asks for permission to take the girls as his disciples, promising he will never forget such a favor. Privately, he believes Bektasin has little reason to refuse. After all, he commands many famous physicians and expects such an offer to strengthen their relationship. However, when he personally makes the request, Bektasin immediately refuses. The physician urges him to reconsider, insisting it would only benefit the girls. Bektasin calmly points out that the physician already has more than 10 disciples and is now trying to take 4 more from him. To him, such greed is unacceptable. The physician explains that the elderly doctors accompanying him are merely assistants rather than disciples. Bektasin does not believe him. Judging by how closely they follow him, he concludes they are either his students or his subordinates. He also realizes the physician is much older than his youthful appearance suggests. The physician reminds him that very few people ever receive the opportunity to study under him. Bektasin remains unmoved. He sees no reason for the girls to learn those techniques and refuses to let anyone take away people who now belong under his protection. More importantly, he senses the physician has another motive. To him, these girls are not future healers but valuable experimental subjects. The physician argues that living people should never be described that way. Deep down, however, he realizes Bektasin has seen through his intention. Convinced there is no turning back, he quietly decides to kill the young master during treatment and simply claim that his damaged meridians caused his death. Before he can act, Bektasin flicks a single drop of tea at him. The droplet strikes the physician's forehead with such force that his hat is shredded into pieces. The effortless display immediately proves that the physician's abilities are nowhere near sufficient to heal him. Bektasin even considers killing him on the spot. For the first time in years, the physician feels overwhelming terror. The bloodlust radiating from Bektasin resembles that of an ancient predator. He demands an explanation, barely hiding his anger. Bektasin calmly replies that he simply dislikes people trying to take away those under his care. All he wants is a peaceful life, and he is fully prepared to eliminate anyone who threatens it. Hearing those words, the physician is overcome with fear. He has experienced such killing intent only once before. Cold sweat covers his body as he realizes he has entered a place where he should never have come. Not long afterward, he meets with the clan's chief manager and unexpectedly announces that he wishes to serve the Golden Wall trading clan under Bektasin. The chief manager is delighted and immediately promises that the clan will reward him generously. The physician assures him there is no need for concern because he completely trusts the young master. In truth, he regrets ever coming. He had lived peacefully for years, but after meeting Bektasin, he knows those peaceful days are over. Even if he had attempted to treat him, the damaged meridians alone would have required months of work. Yet what truly unsettled him was not the illness but Bektasin's overwhelming bloodlust. He considers himself fortunate that fear alone did not completely overwhelm him. Around the same time, Kyongyuan asks whether everything is alright. He reports that restrictions have been successfully placed on all of the accompanying physicians, but he could not do the same to the divine physician. Bektasin explains that he personally placed the restriction on the physician because Kyongyuan was not yet capable of handling someone of that level. He tells Kyongyuan to continue managing the others since using his own strength is still difficult, especially against opponents of that caliber. At that moment, the divine physician joins them. Kyongyuan offers to escort him to his quarters, but the physician refuses, insisting that caring for Bektasin personally is now his responsibility. Jan Heron's bodyguard then asks whether the young master's daily visits to brothels, which often last until dawn, are harming his condition. Even the divine physician is stunned by this revelation. Knowing how severely damaged Bektasin's Bektassin's body is supposed to be, he immediately asks for permission to examine his pulse. After receiving permission, he carefully checks Bektassin's condition. The more he examines him, the less sense it makes. Eventually, he concludes that the body before him should not even be alive. His words alarm both Kyongyun and Jan Haren's bodyguard. Bektassin himself is surprised that the physician reaches such a conclusion after a single examination. The physician explains that he has never encountered meridians this badly damaged. He can hardly believe that even the minor meridians have been completely torn apart. The physician explains that with meridians in such terrible condition, Bektassin should already be dead. Bektassin is disappointed that the physician believes he is practically a walking corpse. Offended on his master's behalf, Kyongyun even suggests blowing up the organs below the physician's waist. The physician quickly apologizes for his blunt words, but insists that Bektassin's condition is critical and requires immediate treatment before it worsens. Before responding, Bektassin tells him to prove his sincerity by risking his own life. The physician refuses, explaining that treating the young master is already his responsibility and he cannot gamble with his life. Even so, he firmly stands by his diagnosis and admits he cannot understand how Bektassin is still alive. Since the physician refuses to stake his life on his claims, Bektassin orders him to stop talking and simply follow him. Although the physician obeys, he remains deeply unsettled by the fact that someone with such injuries can even walk. Along the way, he asks Bektassin how he even knew about him. He briefly wonders whether Bektassin belongs to some hidden cult or whether the entire Golden Wall trading clan is secretly connected to one. The suggestion immediately annoys Bektassin. He replies that he has no idea what cult the physician is talking about and criticizes him for casually making such accusations. He adds that the physician is free to keep speaking if he wishes because he is curious to see how long someone with such a loose tongue can survive. Only then does the physician realize he has spoken far too freely. He immediately apologizes and remains silent, understanding that his carelessness could easily cost him his life. Later, alone in his room, the physician reflects on everything he has witnessed. Throughout the previous night, he heard the sounds coming from Bektassin's room at the brothel. Combined with what he had already observed, he reaches a surprising conclusion. Although the women there were not as naturally pure as the maids serving Bektassin, many of them had developed the same rare physique after spending time with him. To the physician, this can mean only one thing. Bektassin must possess a technique capable of transforming an ordinary physique into one of extraordinary purity. He believes the young master spent the entire night performing exactly that technique. Curious about its secrets, he decides that for now he must earn Bektassin's trust while quietly gathering more information. Soon afterward, Suso arrives and informs him that the young master wishes to see him. Wondering what Bektassin wants this time, the physician follows her. Once everyone gathers, Bektassin recalls the physician claiming to be highly skilled in healing. The physician modestly explains that he is among the finest healers in the world. In his opinion, only 5 people surpass him, including the poisonous demon, the immortal healer, and the eccentric needle master. Hearing those names, Jan Haren's bodyguard realizes that the world's greatest healers all belong to the demonic cult. After the cult disappeared from the outside world, its members became nearly impossible to find because they sealed themselves behind a powerful isolation barrier. She explains that this barrier can only be broken with a special key. It was designed to activate upon the death of the cult leader, and only the next cult leader could remove it. Breaking the barrier by force is virtually impossible. Bektassin remembers that in his previous life, he killed every candidate capable of succeeding him as the heavenly demon. Unless a new leader somehow appeared, no one should be able to remove that barrier. Setting the subject aside, Bektassin asks whether the physician can restore completely severed limb. The physician confidently answers that he can. If a limb is cleanly severed, he can restore it almost perfectly. Even badly damaged organs can be repaired unless the patient dies instantly. Pleased with the answer, Bektassin orders the physician to attend his guard's training session. The physician becomes nervous, explaining that although he knows martial arts, his true specialty is medicine. Bektassin clarifies that Kyongyun and Jan Haren's bodyguard will be training by fighting each other with lethal intent. As long as their heads remain intact, they need not worry about losing limbs because the physician can simply restore them afterward. Only then do they understand why a healer is necessary. Bektassin orders the physician to ensure neither guard dies during training. Kyongyun worries that his master will remain unprotected, but Bektassin explains that he has no intention of leaving the estate for an entire month. During that time, his guards should become strong enough to protect him properly. The physician promises to heal every injury as long as they survive. He even admits that this this method is far more effective than ordinary training because it dramatically accelerates improvement. He speaks from experience, as this brutal training method was originally developed by the Heavenly Demon Sacred Sect. A month passes. During one of their training matches, Yan Heron's bodyguard realizes Kyongyun is fighting with genuine killing intent. Knowing she cannot afford to hold back, she closes the distance and lands a sweeping strike that cuts his chin. Their fight is interrupted by the physician, who announces that it is time to apply his medicinal ointment. The smell alone makes everyone uncomfortable. Kyongyun even drops to one knee, insisting his injuries are too minor to waste such valuable medicine. The physician ignores his protests, pointing out that there is hardly an uninjured spot left on his body. Although the ointment is extremely painful, he assures them it is highly effective before applying it anyway. At that moment, Bektasen arrives. He agrees that the ointment is excellent and both guards are relieved to see him again after an entire month. The physician asks what brought him there. Bektasen replies that exactly 1 month has passed, so he came to check on everyone's progress. He then unexpectedly offers the physician his hand. The physician is startled until Bektasen explains that he knows he wants to examine his pulse. After checking it, the physician is left speechless. Unable to believe what he feels, he asks how Bektasen managed to restore his damaged meridian. During the past month, Bektasen devoted himself entirely to meditation, stabilizing the meridians he had previously repaired. His internal energy has also changed dramatically. Unlike the destructive and violent energy he possessed as the heavenly demon, it has become incredibly dense and stable. Although controlling it is now much more difficult, he believes that if his recovery continues, he will eventually obtain a perfect body. Bektasen then scolds the physician for deliberately making the healing ointment unnecessarily painful just to vent his frustration on the guards. He orders him to change the formula and stop tormenting them. The physician is shocked that Bektasen saw through his intention. Meanwhile, Kyongyun wastes no time confronting the physician and immediately starts attacking him with his fists. Ignoring their argument, Bektasen tells Yan Heron's bodyguard that they will visit Yan Heron's clan the following day. She assumes he intends to prevent the cancellation of his engagement, but Bektasen explains that the Yongli clan has sent him a message requesting a meeting instead. Soon afterward, the physician provides him with the information his network gathered about the Yongli clan. Bektasen, however, is dissatisfied with how little they uncovered. The physician explains that obtaining information about such a prestigious clan is extremely difficult, and his people had already gone to great lengths just to gather what they had. Bektasen quickly notices that the divine physician has grown a little too comfortable lately. The physician argues that treating Kyongyun and Yan Heron's bodyguard with his special ointment leaves him so busy that he really needs 2 assistants. Bektasen calmly replies that he can simply split the physician into 2 people to solve that problem. The horrifying suggestion immediately terrifies the physician. Every time Bektasen says something like that, he feels as though he has returned to his days in the Heavenly Demon Sacred Sect. Those memories remind Bektasen of how the sect once sent intelligence teams across the world disguised as merchants, guards, physicians, and other professions. He begins wondering whether he might have encountered this physician during his previous life. The physician then asks why Bektasen has become so interested in the Yongli clan. He jokingly wonders whether it is simply because Yan Heron is beautiful. Bektasen cannot deny that she is indeed beautiful. More importantly, she reminds him of someone from his previous life. Seeing him lost in thought, the physician changes the subject and suggests bringing additional bodyguards to the meeting for safety. Bektasen dismisses the idea, calling him overly cautious. He has no concerns about dealing with the Yongli clan. He remembers that, during the war against the Heavenly Demon Sacred Sect, the Yongli clan abandoned the battlefield while the other clans continued fighting. Bektasen personally hunted them down, although they barely managed to escape. Since then, they had kept a low profile for years. Now he is curious to see how arrogantly they still behave. The story then shifts to the Yang clan. Yan Heron's father is surprised by Bektasen's appearance. His condition has improved so much that he almost seems like a different person, and he praises the divine physician for the remarkable recovery. Bektasen admits he still has a long way to go before fully recovering, but he is confident he eventually will. The clan leader laughs, saying so much has changed since their last meeting that he almost feels he is speaking to someone entirely different. He then explains that the situation has become more complicated. The Yongli clan is determined to break the engagement. He believes they intend to lure Bektasen into a trap, publicly humiliate him in front of Yan Heron and create conflict between the Yang clan and the Golden Wall trading clan. Baektasen promises to deal with the matter. He already suspects the Yongli clan intends to use this dispute as an excuse to weaken both clans before taking advantage of the chaos. To him, they are still the same opportunistic cowards they were in his previous life. After finishing his discussion with the clan leader, Baektasen heads outside, only to have his path blocked by the Yongli clan's youngest heir. Even before the young man introduces himself, Baektasen immediately recognizes who he is and remains silent. Receiving no response, the heir mocks Baektasen, insulting both his abilities and his character before arrogantly demanding that he introduce himself properly. At once, both sides place their hands on their weapons. Kyongyuan and Yan Heron's bodyguard prepare for battle as well. Ignoring the growing tension, the Yongli heir proposes speaking somewhere more private. Baektasen smiles and asks whether the young man would mind meeting without any companion. Understanding his intention, Kyongyuan quietly warns against killing the heir. The young man simply laughs and mocks Kyongyuan as well, proposing that his own warriors spar against Baektasen's guards. He doubts Kyongyuan can last even a few minutes. Baektasen readily accepts. His guards have just completed a month of brutal training. As both young masters leave together, the Yongli warriors warn that they will not hold back and refuse responsibility if anyone dies during the spar. Watching from a distance, the divine physician realizes Kyongyuan and Yan Heron's bodyguard are facing the Yongli clan's elite warriors. Curious to see the results of Baektasen's training, he observes from a safer distance. Meanwhile, the Yongli heir leads Baektasen to a secluded location. Proud of his preparation, he says he chose this quiet place so they could speak without interruption. Baektasen compliments his choice of location. The heir reveals that he has been waiting for this opportunity ever since Baektasen arrived. He boasts about his talent for inflicting pain and promises Baektasen will soon experience it firsthand. Baektasen calmly replies that he is equally interested in seeing those skills but first wants to know the heir's true objective. He is certain the engagement with Yan Heron is merely an excuse. The heir admits that although Yan Heron is attractive, she is far beneath his true ambition. Without warning, he throws a hidden knife. To his astonishment, the blade strikes only the tree behind Baektasen. In the same instant, Baektasen has already moved behind him and seized him by the head. Calmly tightening his grip, he suggests discussing just how ambitious the young heir truly is. The heir is stunned that someone with ruined meridians possesses such speed. Convincing himself it was merely luck, he suddenly feels excruciating pain spreading throughout his body. His screams echo across the estate. Both groups of guards hear the cries. The Yongli warriors assume their young master is in danger while Kyongyuan immediately prepares to help Baektasen. Yan Heron's bodyguard remains completely confident in her master's safety. Instead, she proposes defeating the enemy guards as quickly as possible. The Yongli warriors arrogantly claim they will not even need their full strength. That confidence disappears almost immediately. The first attackers are defeated without Kyongyuan or Yan Heron's bodyguard even drawing their weapons. As the remaining warriors focus on Kyongyuan, Yan Heron's bodyguard intercepts those attempting to attack him from behind, reminding them that she is their opponent as well. The two stand back to back, fully aware that they cannot afford to disappoint Baektasen. They are determined to prove the value of the training he forced them to endure. Elsewhere, Baektasen laughs as the heir's arrogance rapidly fades. He deliberately absorbs only half of the young man's internal energy, not out of mercy, but because killing him now would create unnecessary complications. Back on the Yang clan grounds, the battle finally ends as Yan Heron's bodyguard defeats the last remaining opponent. She admits she had doubted whether they had truly become strong enough, but now she is convinced. Kyongyuan says he never doubted their victory because he trusted Baektasen completely. Curious, Yan Heron's bodyguard asks who Baektasen truly is if he can raise their strength so dramatically. Kyongyuan cannot answer that question, but he knows they would have lost instantly without Baektasen's training. Before they even arrived at the Yang clan, Baektasen had already explained every weakness of the Yongli warriors. During the battle, Kyongyuan gradually realized that every prediction his master made was correct. allowing him to anticipate their movements with ease. From that moment on, Gyeongyun becomes even more convinced that he serves an extraordinary master. Soon afterward, Baektasin rejoins them on the bridge, where he finds the divine physician waiting alone. He asks why the physician stayed away from the fighting. The physician explains that he could contribute nothing in battle. Baektasin pays little attention to the answer. Instead, he questions why his guards took so long to defeat such insignificant opponents. The physician reminds him that the Yungli warriors are respected martial artists within their clan. Baektasin dismisses that entirely, concluding that Gyeongyun and Yan Haren's bodyguards still require much more training. He orders the physician to double the intensity of their training once they return home. Baektasin explains that he simply cannot tolerate having weak people around him. Hearing that, the divine physician has no choice but to accept the order to train the guards even harder. Later, everyone gathers for dinner with the Yang clan leader. During the meal, the clan leader notices that the Yungli heir has completely lost his confidence. Unable to ignore his strange behavior any longer, he asks what happened during the private meeting between him and Baektasin. Hearing this for the first time, Yan Haren immediately worries about her fiancé, but Baektasin calmly assures her that he is perfectly fine. He then replies that they simply had a very meaningful conversation and even opened their hearts to one another. To everyone's surprise, the terrified Yungli heir immediately agrees, not daring to raise his head. Baektasin is displeased by this. He reminds the young man that proper manners require looking someone in the eye while speaking. The heir slowly forces himself to look up, but the moment he meets Baektasin's gaze, overwhelming terror consumes him. To him, Baektasin resembles a true demon. His entire body begins trembling uncontrollably before foam and saliva pour from his mouth. Unable to control himself, he even wets his pants. The dinner ends immediately as everyone nearby retreats in disgust. Baektasin quietly laughs, satisfied that he has thoroughly humiliated the arrogant heir. Before long, news of the incident reaches the Yungli clan leader. He immediately demands a full report on what happened to both his son and the accompanying warriors. His subordinate promises to investigate how only 2 of Baektasin's guards managed to defeat the Yungli elite and whether the Yang clan secretly assisted them. The clan leader then asks about his son's condition. Since returning, the young man has locked himself in his room and refuses to come out. The physicians suspect something has affected his martial arts, but they cannot determine what happened because portions of his memory have disappeared. The clan leader is furious. Not only has his son disgraced himself, but he has also humiliated the entire clan. He refuses to believe that someone who spent his entire life on the verge of death could have accomplished this alone. He is convinced another force is involved and orders his people to uncover the truth at any cost. He recalls how the heavenly demon nearly destroyed the Yungli clan because of his own father's mistakes. Now that the clan has finally rebuilt itself, he refuses to allow anyone to humiliate them again. No matter who stands behind the incident, he intends to eliminate them. Meanwhile, Baektasin remains at the Yang clan with his guards. Suddenly, numerous members of the Yungli clan arrive at the estate. Gyeongyun immediately reports the situation to Baektasin. At first, Baektasin assumes they have come seeking revenge. Although Gyeongyun cannot determine their purpose, he notices several highly skilled martial artists among them. Baektasin asks how he identified them so quickly. Gyeongyun explains that one of them deliberately released his aura to display his strength. Baektasin simply laughs at such childish arrogance. In his opinion, people like that only learn after being thoroughly beaten. Rather than concern himself with them, he tells Gyeongyun they have more important work to do. Gyeongyun initially assumes they are heading to another brothel, but Baektasin reminds him that they still have unfinished business involving the Yungli clan. He sees no reason to interfere directly because the clan will remain occupied cleaning up the chaos caused by its own young heir. With no choice but to follow, Gyeongyun accompanies his master while Baektasin quietly enjoys how much more interesting the situation has become. Soon they arrive at the Blood Axe sect. The sect is much larger than Baektasin expected. Gyeongyun correctly guesses that Baektasin intends to recruit the Blood Axe sect. He also explains that, although they are not the strongest unorthodox sect in the region, they maintain a secret agreement with the Yungli clan and are unlikely to cooperate. Baektasin disagrees. He believes the Blood Axe sect has no real desire to serve the Yungli clan and only submitted because they lack the strength to resist. Such situations are common throughout Murim. Once people realize resistance is impossible, they gradually lose the will to fight altogether. He then asks Kyongyun what usually happens to people like that. Kyongyun falls silent. His master's words remind him of the destruction of his own sect. He remembers his father ordering a trusted subordinate to take him away and hide him while the sect was being attacked. As a child, Kyongyun cried and begged not to leave, but his father only hoped he would survive. Soon afterward, the attackers arrived. Their leader, Blood Phoenix, immediately realized someone had escaped. Kyongyun's father knelt before him, insisting his family had committed no crime and begging him to spare his son. Blood Phoenix refused. He believed the boy would inevitably return seeking revenge, making their future confrontation unavoidable. Hidden nearby, the young Kyongyun watched as his father was beheaded before being carried away by the escaping servant. That day he learned only one lesson: weakness is a sin. Returning to the present, Kyongyun quietly asks Baektasen what people without strength are supposed to do. Recognizing how personal the question is, Baektasen answers without hesitation. As he pushes open the Blood Axe sect's gate, he declares that he will give such people the strength they lack. The moment the gates open, members of the Blood Axe sect rush toward them. A brief battle follows. Within moments, the sect leader and his subordinates are kneeling before Baektasen, bruised and defeated. They beg for mercy, apologize for failing to recognize him, and promise to do whatever he asks. Baektasen decides to give them an opportunity instead of destroying them. He wants to see whether they can become useful to him. However, he issues one strict warning. If they ever pay tribute to the Yongli clan again, he will personally return and beat every one of them. The sect leader nervously explains that refusing to pay tribute would normally mean certain death. Several days later, the Yongli clan receives news that the Blood Axe sect has refused to pay. Even the clan's manager is shocked because such defiance has never happened before. The clan leader cannot understand how the collectors accepted such a refusal so calmly. His manager explains that the Blood Axe sect showed complete confidence in its decision. The clan leader concludes they must have found outside support, perhaps from some powerful third party. The manager recommends sending an elite squad to crush the rebellion. The clan leader agrees immediately, although he is frustrated that this crisis comes while the clan is already struggling financially. He orders the elite force to make an example of the Blood Axe sect so that every sect in the region remembers who truly rules them. At the time, the elite warriors are training alongside the third young master, so the manager leaves to deliver the orders. The clan leader remains furious that anyone dared embarrass the Yongli clan. In his eyes, any resistance must be completely crushed before it inspires others. Elsewhere, Baektasen calmly walks through his territory. Kyongyun asks whether everything will truly be alright. After all, they ordered the Blood Axe sect to stop paying tribute, and the Yongli clan is certain to retaliate. If they also discover that Baektasen exposed the weaknesses of their warriors, the consequences could be even worse. Baektasen remains unconcerned. By cutting off the Yongli clan's sources of income, he has already placed them under enormous pressure. As long as they are busy dealing with those financial losses, they will have little time to focus on the Golden Wall trading clan. In his view, the clan's position has already begun to crumble. Kyongyun knows the Yongli clan still possesses enormous influence. If they mobilize their forces, few unorthodox sects could survive. Baektasen calmly replies that this is exactly why they are about to meet people capable of opposing them. Kyongyun does not understand what he means until they arrive at the Donghae Security Transport Company. Confused by his master's destination, Kyongyun watches as Baektasen walks straight to the gate and tells the guard he wishes to meet the company master. The guard politely explains that his master does not receive just anyone. Baektasen immediately becomes irritated, pointing out that he is clearly not just anyone, and orders the guard to lead him inside. As they enter, Kyongyun quietly apologizes for Baektasen's blunt attitude before following him. Before opening the master's door, the guard asks them to wait while he announces their arrival and explains the purpose of the visit. Only then does Baektasen realize he has not prepared a reason for coming. After several moments of silence, the impatient guard warns that his master will refuse to meet them if they continue delaying. At last, Baektasen remembers what to say and tells the guard to report that he wishes to send something through the mystic moon. Once the guard leaves, Kyongyun quietly wonders what the mystic moon actually is. Before he can ask, the company master rushes out personally. He immediately bows bows deeply, introduces himself as the owner of the security company, and respectfully welcomes Baektasin before inviting him inside. Watching this unexpected reception, Kyunghyun is completely bewildered. While drinking tea, Baektasin asks how many men the company can mobilize. The owner answers that they currently have 6 chief bodyguards and 60 regular guards. Baektasin orders him to prepare every available guard immediately and gather the 6 chief bodyguards separately because he has instructions for them. Without asking any questions, the owner agrees. Soon afterward, Baektasin stands before the assembled bodyguards and gives them detailed orders. Kyunghyun still cannot understand his master's intention. Although these guards are skilled, he doubts they possess enough strength to oppose the Youngli clan. After finishing his briefing, Baektasin announces that the bodyguards will assist the unorthodox factions in fighting against the Youngli clan. Every guard immediately bows in acknowledgement. Baektasin also decides to accompany them. Kyunghyun assumes they are attempting to unite the unorthodox sects, but Baektasin explains that the bodyguards will handle the main fighting. Kyunghyun insists he will step in if the situation becomes too dangerous because their opponent is still the Youngli clan. Baektasin simply smiles. As they travel, he asks Kyunghyun whether he believes he could defeat the owner of the security company. Kyunghyun replies that after observing him, he believes they are roughly equal in strength. He also considers himself stronger than the chief bodyguards he met there. Baektasin tells him he is completely mistaken. Kyunghyun is stunned. Baektasin explains that Kyunghyun still has a long way to go before reaching the level of those chief bodyguards, while the company master himself is stronger still. True strength cannot be judged by appearances alone. The reason is simple. Every one of those bodyguards secretly belongs to the heavenly demon sacred sect. Thanks to the divine physician's investigation, Baektasin discovered where some former cult members had been hiding. They concealed themselves as ordinary bodyguards, carefully suppressing their true abilities to avoid attracting attention. After hearing the code phrase "Mystic Moon," they immediately recognized his authority and submitted without hesitation. They still have no idea that Baektasin is actually the former heavenly demon himself. Kyunghyun is astonished and asks when Baektasin established contact with such people. Baektasin merely replies that it is something children do not need to know. Although the remark sounds strange coming from someone much younger than him, Kyunghyun says nothing. Baektasin then reveals their real objective. The bodyguards will deal with the ordinary troops, while he and Kyunghyun will face the enemy leader themselves. The story shifts to the Blood Axe sect. A Youngli clan elder arrives to collect tribute from the sect leader. The Blood Axe sect leader refuses outright, declaring that he wants nothing more to do with the Youngli clan. The elder assumes they have gone mad if they believe they can oppose such a powerful clan. The sect members answer that refusing is the only way they can preserve their dignity. They would rather face death than continue serving the Youngli clan. Hearing those words, the elder immediately realizes someone powerful must be supporting them. He suspects the same person responsible for defeating the young master. At that moment, he senses an unfamiliar aura approaching from outside. He orders his men to deal with the Blood Axe sect, leaving one survivor alive for questioning, while he personally investigates the strange presence. The instant he steps outside, every instinct warns him that he is facing extraordinary danger. Baektasin immediately notices the elder's sharp senses and concludes that the man is indeed powerful. Even though the Youngli clan has declined, its elders still possess considerable strength. The elder instantly recognizes Baektasin as the mastermind behind everything. Baektasin neither confirms nor denies the accusation, believing the old man will not live long enough for the answer to matter. Enraged by such arrogance, the elder decides to cut off several of Baektasin's limbs to teach him respect. Before he can move, Kyunghyun steps forward. He calmly warns the elder that he will never even reach the young master. The elder realizes the powerful aura he sensed actually comes from Kyunghyun rather than Baektasin. Even so, Kyunghyun appears far weaker than such overwhelming pressure would suggest. Drawing his sword, the elder decides to uncover the truth through battle. Kyunghyun prepares himself while Baektasin reminds him that this opponent is much stronger than anyone he has previously faced. Rather than interfering, Baektasin wants to see how long Kyunghyun can survive. Kyunghyun honestly admits that the elder's aura alone is making his body tremble. Even so, he resolves to fight with everything he has. Baektasin praises his determination, reminding him that the fastest way to grow stronger is to battle someone more powerful than himself. The elder laughs at their conversation, mocking them for talking so calmly despite standing on the brink of death. Without further delay, he launches forward, intending to decapitate Kyongyun with a single strike. To his surprise, Kyongyun blocks the attack. The elder retreats briefly before unleashing an even stronger strike, expecting to break through immediately. Once again, Kyongyun withstands the blow. Although fear makes his hands shake, he gradually begins reading the elder's movements. The elder grows furious that an insignificant bodyguard continues blocking his attacks. He pours even more internal energy into every swing, relentlessly attacking until Kyongyun's sword begins showing signs of reaching its limit. Determined to end the fight, the elder finally gathers his internal energy into one devastating strike and slams it directly into Kyongyun's chest. The impact sends Kyongyun flying several meters through the air, coughing up blood. Even so, he refuses to release his sword. Lying there, he finally understands the elder's fighting style. Watching closely, Baektasen notices the determination in Kyongyun's eyes and realizes that the brutal month of training has already begun to bear fruit. The elder stares at Kyongyun in disbelief. He begins wondering whether anyone in the entire Yongli clan could have blocked his attacks the way Kyongyun just did. Impressed by his talent, the elder offers to recruit him into the Yongli clan. He promises to personally teach him martial arts, insisting that someone so gifted should not waste his life serving a mere merchant clan. Kyongyun simply laughs. He replies that he is not the one serving Baektasen in such a degrading way. If anything, it is Baektasen who looks after him. He then makes it clear that, compared to his master's swordsmanship, the elder's techniques are nothing. Unlike Baektasen, the elder's attacks are completely visible to him. The elder is enraged by such arrogance. Without another word, he launches forward and slashes at Kyongyun, intending to sever his neck. At the last instant, Kyongyun twists away, reducing the fatal strike to a deep wound across his shoulder before retreating. Bleeding heavily, he forces himself back into a fighting stance. The elder is genuinely shocked. He aimed for Kyongyun's neck, yet the young warrior predicted the attack well enough to avoid death. That proves his earlier words were no coincidence. Seeing the pain Kyongyun is enduring, the elder decides to finish him once and for all. Before he can move again, Baektasen calmly tells Kyongyun to stop resisting. Kyongyun insists he can still stand and continue fighting. Baektasen disagrees. He realizes the injury is so severe that Kyongyun may never properly use that arm again. Even so, he reassures him that there is no reason to be discouraged because he performed exceptionally well during the battle. Those few words restore Kyongyun's confidence. Baektasen walks past him toward the elder and tells Kyongyun to watch the upcoming fight carefully without missing a single movement. Kyongyun obediently fixes his eyes on his master. The elder laughs. Knowing Baektasen's meridians are supposedly destroyed, he cannot understand how someone on the brink of death dares challenge him. Baektasen calmly replies that he does not even need a weapon to defeat someone of his level. Insulted by such confidence, the elder declares he will gouge out Baektasen's arrogant eye. Baektasen simply tells him not to hold back. The elder carefully observes him one last time. Seeing nothing extraordinary, he convinces himself Baektasen is only bluffing. Certain of victory, he rushes forward. Leaping through the air, he swings his sword directly at Baektasen's head, believing the battle is already over. For a brief moment, he even laughs inwardly, convinced Baektasen's claim about not needing a sword was empty bravado. Then everything changes. His blade cuts through empty air. Before he can understand what happened, Baektasen has already stepped aside, gathered internal energy into his hand, and calmly reminds him that he never needed a sword to begin with. A single punch lands squarely on the elder's jaw. The impact surges through his entire body. Although powerful enough to survive the initial strike, the elder slowly collapses to his knees, unable to believe he has been defeated so effortlessly. As his life fades away, the last thing he sees is Baektasen's face, leaving him wondering who this mysterious young man truly is. Watching the entire battle, Kyongyun is filled with admiration. He has never seen movements so flawless and beautiful. From that moment on, he wishes only to become even a fraction as strong as his master. The story then returns to the estate. After examining Kyongyun's injuries, the divine physician angrily scolds him. Had he arrived any later, Kyung-gyun's arm would have required amputation. Only then does Kyung-gyun realize how close he came to permanently losing his arm. He bows sincerely, apologizes for his recklessness, and thanks the physician for saving him. Proud of his medical skills, the physician reminds Kyung-gyun not to forget the favor he has received. Although he often views people more as subjects than individuals, he is pleased that Kyung-gyun genuinely appreciates his help. Yeon-haren's bodyguard also thanks him for treating her partner. The physician points out that this is already the 19th time she has thanked him. Even so, he remains dissatisfied, believing people eventually forget the kindness others show them. Despite his complaints, both guards sincerely thank him once again. The physician then turns to Baektasen. He mentions receiving an extremely generous offer that includes a large amount of money and rare medicinal herbs. Baektasen immediately stops walking and looks at him coldly, causing the physician to shiver. Instead of becoming angry, however, Baektasen calmly tells him he is free to leave whenever he wishes. The physician is confused until Baektasen clarifies that he may even join the Youngli clan if that is what he truly wants. Alarmed, the physician immediately denies ever considering such an offer. He insists he only wishes to continue serving Baektasen. Ignoring the explanation, Baektasen changes the subject and asks whether all the surviving enemies have been treated. While he and Kyung-gyun dealt with the elder, the chief bodyguards defeated the remaining opponents. The guards believe the Youngli clan will hesitate before targeting them again. Baektasen disagrees. Now that the clan's plans have failed, they are even more likely to launch a full-scale retaliation. More importantly, he believes the Youngli clan has been acting with far too much confidence. Such behavior suggests they are backed by someone powerful. Identifying that hidden supporter has become his highest priority. Otherwise, an even greater threat will eventually emerge. He then asks the physician whether he has found the information he requested. The physician confirms that he has. Baektasen orders him to bring it that very night because he intends to uncover who is truly supporting the Youngli clan. The story then shifts to the Youngli clan. A young woman walks through the estate while even the senior managers respectfully bow before her. She is a messenger from the House of White Flowers. The Youngli clan leader immediately orders that she be admitted. As soon as she enters, he warmly welcomes her, clearly having anticipated her arrival. Without wasting time, she brings up the death of one of the clan elders the previous night. She admits she can hardly believe such a powerful elder died at the hands of a merchant clan's young master. The clan leader quickly explains that Baektasen is surrounded by exceptionally skilled warriors. He asks her to reassure the Golden Heavenly Alliance that everything remains under control because he will personally resolve the matter. She interrupts him before he can continue. She explains that the conflict now directly concerns the House of White Flowers as well. Their organization will provide support to the Youngli clan. According to her information, Baektasen will soon visit their brothel. Not long ago, they deliberately spread a rumor claiming the House of White Flowers has ties to the Golden Heavenly Alliance. She is certain that rumor will lure Baektasen there, making it impossible for him to avoid their trap. The following day, everyone gathers around Kyung-gyun before the mission begins. Because of his severe injuries, they urge him to remain behind at the estate. Kyung-gyun stubbornly insists he can still fight and promises not to overexert himself. The divine physician warns that his condition will be obvious before the battle even starts. To solve the problem, he proposes using a special poison that relaxes the body and suppresses facial expressions, allowing Kyung-gyun to appear perfectly calm. It does have a minor side effect, but he claims it is nothing serious. Kyung-gyun refuses at first. However, when Baektasen decides to leave him behind, he immediately changes his mind. The physician takes out an enormous poison-coated needle and drives it into Kyung-gyun. Moments later, everyone is forced to listen to the agonized screams of the supposedly fearless warrior. Baektasen can only sigh in frustration, wondering whether Kyung-gyun and the divine physician will ever behave like normal people. Yeon-haren's bodyguard soon realizes the poison's side effect has made Kyung-gyun look rather foolish, although it successfully relaxed his tense facial muscles. With their preparations complete, the group finally sets out for the House of White Flowers. Arriving at the House of White Flowers, Yeon-haren's bodyguard is visibly unhappy. She cannot understand why Baektasen is so eager to visit another brothel. The divine physician explains that this is no ordinary establishment. It was built by the Golden Heavenly Alliance. She initially assumes it is simply another business owned by wealthy merchants. The physician corrects her, explaining that the House of White Flowers quietly expanded its influence around the Golden Wall trading clan. Although its staff appear to be ordinary employees, nearly all of them are highly trained martial artists whose strength rivals that of elite warriors from respected clans. He also mentions the recent rumor connecting the House of White Flowers to the Golden Heavenly Alliance. In his opinion, someone deliberately spread that rumor to lure a particular target here. Jan Heron's bodyguard immediately concludes that they should turn back because the enemy is obviously leading Bektasen into a trap. The physician notices how worried she is for her master, but both quickly realize that someone as powerful as Bektasen hardly needs their concern. Before long, they enter the House of White Flowers. A courtesan warmly greets Bektasen, happily welcoming the famous Night King. The divine physician chuckles, amused that even this place has heard the rumors surrounding his master. He asks the courtesan to ensure Bektasen receives the finest treatment available. While the physician speaks with her, Bektasen quietly observes the people working inside. Every employee possesses strength comparable to elite warriors from major clans. From what he remembers, the Golden Heavenly Alliance should not have enough skilled fighters to maintain such an establishment. Someone far more influential must be supporting them. That realization only increases his curiosity. The courtesan eventually escorts Bektasen to a private room prepared specifically for him and his attendant. The divine physician happily prepares to follow until Jan Heron's bodyguard suddenly stops him. She reminds him that attendants are expected to remain outside. Although the physician protests, she eventually drags him away with Kyonggyun's help, leaving all three waiting outside. As they stand there, the physician complains bitterly about being forced to come to such a place. Jan Heron's bodyguard soon notices something strange about Kyonggyun and asks whether he is feeling unwell. He admits that the physician's medicine has worn off, causing an unfortunate side effect. The woman he loves suddenly appears overwhelmingly attractive, and he can barely suppress his reaction. Concerned, Jan Heron's bodyguard steps closer to examine him. Unable to endure it any longer, Kyonggyun slams his own head into the wall to regain his composure. When he finally calms down, he immediately realizes the divine physician knew this side effect would happen all along. Just as they begin wondering where Bektasen is, a stranger appeared. The man informs them that their master is somewhere else before mockingly referring to them as Bektasen's trained dogs. Behind him stands the entire security force of the brothel. The divine physician immediately recognizes them as Yongli clan warriors and realizes the House of White Flowers has been working with them from the beginning. Although the man is impressed they uncovered the truth so quickly, he calmly explains that this only gives him another reason to ensure none of them leave alive. He immediately orders his men to attack. Rather than feeling intimidated, Kyonggyun is almost relieved. After struggling to suppress the effects of the medicine, he finds battle far easier to handle. Jan Heron's bodyguard briefly wonders what restraint Kyonggyun was talking about, but she quickly sets the question aside as several enemies rush toward her. She defeats them with a single sweeping attack. Seeing that, Kyonggyun also stops holding back. Meanwhile, Bektasen remains inside with the courtesan. She wonders why he refuses to sit beside her and invites him to take a seat. Instead, Bektasen comments on the unusual noise outside, having already sensed that fighting has begun. The woman pretends to hear nothing. Privately, she is pleased because she believes Bektasen will finally die today. Although she thinks he is a handsome young man, she also considers him naive for walking into such an obvious trap. Without warning, Bektasen tells her that she should have her eyes gouged out. He explains that he hardly resembles prey cornered by hunters and knows she believes he entered the brothel completely unaware of the trap. Before she can react, Bektasen suddenly smashes through the nearby door. He then coldly warns her never to look at him that way again. For a brief moment, genuine terror overwhelms her. Outside, Jan Heron's bodyguard continues cutting through her opponents. She occasionally glances toward Kyonggyun, who now fights like a god of war, preventing anyone from approaching him. Eventually, one enemy catches him off guard. Forced to dodge suddenly, Kyonggyun loses his balance. Jan Heron's bodyguard immediately appears behind him, catches him before he falls and throws him forward. Using the momentum, Kyonggyun charges straight into the remaining enemies and swiftly decapitates them. Within moments, the two stand alone in a corridor covered with bodies. Watching from nearby, the manager is disappointed that his men proved so useless. Deciding to intervene personally, he warns the two guards that no one will save them now. They are surprised when he draws daggers despite standing several meters away. In the next instant, the old man closes the distance with incredible speed. Kyong-gyun and Yan Haren's bodyguard instinctively thrust their swords forward, but he changes direction mid-attack and slips into the gap in their defense. As he prepares to stab one of them, Kyong-gyun reacts first, throwing himself between the attack and Yan Haren's bodyguard. Although he shields her, both of them are still wounded. They immediately retreat together. It becomes obvious that this opponent is far stronger than anyone they fought earlier. Even they begin doubting whether they can defeat him. The old manager acknowledges that the pair possess genuine skill, but he believes it would disgrace both himself and the Young Lee clan if he lost to two mere guards. Determined to finish the battle, he prepares another attack. At that moment Baektasin arrives. Both guards are visibly relieved to see their master. The manager immediately realizes who stands before him. He had believed Baektasin was little more than a dying invalid, but now understands he has hidden his true strength all along. Baektasin calmly replies that this misconception exists only because his enemies desperately want him to appear weak. Laughing, the old man says he originally intended to spare Baektasin, but has now changed his mind. He immediately throws several concealed daggers. Baektasin effortlessly dodges every one of them without showing the slightest fear. He criticizes the old man for acting recklessly, nodding that he clearly has no intention of answering any questions willingly. Since interrogation is pointless, Baektasin decides to simply enjoy the fight. In an instant, he appears directly before the old man. The sudden movement leaves the manager visibly shaken. Before he can react, Baektasin begins draining his life force. Once the battle is over, the divine physician finally emerges from his hiding place. Kyong-gyun is relieved to see that he survived. The physician laughs, explaining that if he had died, there would have been no one left to heal the guards. He then suggests that Baektasin finally bring the entire incident to an end. Baektasin releases the defeated old man and together with the divine physician walks outside, where several remaining warriors immediately attempt one final attack. The remaining warriors rush toward Baektasin, but he defeats them effortlessly without even drawing a weapon. Kyong-gyun and Yan Haren's bodyguard are not surprised. They know their master's overwhelming strength is the only reason the battle ends so easily. Afterward, the group climbs to the upper floor of the building. Only then do the guards ask who Baektasin has been searching for all this time. He reveals that he is looking for the true puppeteer behind the attacks against him. At the same time, a woman calmly sits upstairs, quietly drinking tea. Baektasin enters her room and immediately recognizes her as the one pulling the string. Without wasting time, he tells her not to pretend the House of White Flowers had nothing to do with the recent attacks. The woman does not deny it. She values her life too much to lie. Her calm attitude surprises Baektasin. She explains that she believes she is far more valuable alive than dead. Baektasin decides to question her instead. He asks who is truly controlling everything, making it clear that he is not referring to the Golden Heavenly Alliance but to those standing behind it. The woman is surprised he reaches that conclusion so quickly. Unfortunately, she admits she does not know their true identities. They always remain hidden and communicate only through the Golden Heavenly Alliance. The person delivering their orders is someone named Bongmu. The divine physician immediately recognizes the name. He knows Bongmu as the Black Moon Swordsman, a legendary martial artist famous for killing the demonic General Blood Flame, one of the top 100 strongest fighters. According to all known records, however, he died long ago. Baektasin asks the woman to explain. She confidently insists it is the same man and even swears on her soul that she is telling the truth. Satisfied, Baektasin ends the questioning. Instead of killing her, he orders her to remain in charge of the House of White Flowers and secretly gather every piece of information she can about the Golden Heavenly Alliance and Bongmu before reporting everything directly to him. The woman hesitates, claiming she will probably be unable to uncover anything important. Baektasin immediately recognizes the lie. She herself admitted she wanted to remain useful, meaning she clearly possesses greater access than she claimed. He also reveals that he already knows she belongs to the Hao faction. Her movements gave her away, and despite her efforts, she failed to conceal her background. Baektasin concludes that the Golden Heavenly Alliance recruited her precisely because of those connections. He calmly warns her not to disappoint him if she wishes to stay alive. Then he mentions something that completely changes her expression. Only he knows the whereabouts of the lost shadow step technique. The woman is stunned. That martial art belonged to the Hao faction and disappeared many years ago. An outsider should not even know it exists. Realizing Baektasen truly understands her background, she immediately bows and promises to serve him faithfully without failing him. The story then shifts to the Winter Palace. Bangmu slowly climbs a staircase and approaches a white-haired elder. The elder immediately senses that something serious has happened. Bangmu reports that the situation in Wuhan has become critical. The Yongli clan and the House of White Flowers, both acting on behalf of the Golden Heavenly Alliance, were defeated the previous night by an unknown group whose identities remain undiscovered. The report deeply concerns them. The elder's younger brother mocks the white-haired man, questioning how someone incapable of managing even a simple alliance expects to remain the heir. Another member quickly silences the argument. He reminds everyone that Wuhan is a crucial part of a plan that has been prepared for centuries. No mistakes can be tolerated because the time for their long-awaited appearance is rapidly approaching. The story then moves to the Dong Security Transport Company. The divine physician privately meets the company master. The master reminds him that meetings like this violate their rules. The divine physician replies that the current situation is exceptional. The company master realizes they are discussing the mystic heavenly charms and honestly admits he has no idea when the next supreme leader will finally appear. After thinking for a moment, the divine physician says they should begin preparing for that day. He then asks the company master what he thinks of Baektasen. The answer is uncertain. Baektasen used a secret code known only to high-ranking members of the Heavenly Demon Sacred Sect, yet no one matching his age should possess such knowledge. The divine physician then shares his own theory. He believes Baektasen may be the secret son of the late supreme leader. The shocking conclusion makes the old man nearly spit out his tea. He blurts out his disbelief before the divine physician quickly tells him to lower his voice. Although excited by the possibility that a new supreme leader may have appeared sooner than expected, the divine physician admits he still cannot determine who Baektasen truly is because the young man has revealed almost nothing about himself. Just then Suso arrives with new information. She reports that another famous physician has finally accepted the invitation to visit the estate. The renowned eccentric needle doctor is on his way. The divine physician freezes before shouting in disbelief, unable to understand why such an eccentric individual would suddenly come. Suso reminds him that healers from all over the world were invited. Although Baektasen's condition greatly improved after the divine physician arrived, the clan leader still hopes another master physician might help even further. The divine physician argues that no one could possibly accomplish more. Suso replies that the eccentric needle doctor is rumored to cure any illness with a single needle, and can even restore damaged meridians. Baektasen calmly interrupts their argument. He explains that the eccentric needle doctor became famous not because of his healing ability, but because of his terrifying skill at killing people with needles. His reputation comes from wiping out an entire sect using nothing but needles. The innocent Suso immediately objects, insisting she has never heard such a story and that a true healer would never kill anyone. Baektasen can only smile at her innocence. Embarrassed by being treated like a child, Suso quickly argues that she is already a grown woman. The story then shifts to the marketplace. Denian visits the market with several attendants to purchase fruit and vegetables for Baektasen's estate. Suddenly loud shouting erupts nearby. A gambler accuses a game stall owner of cheating by secretly removing a coin hidden beneath a cup after the wager had already been placed. He demands his money back. The stall owner denies everything, claiming no dishonest business could have survived for 15 years. The gambler proposes a wager. If a coin is found beneath the cup, he is willing to sacrifice his own eye. If no coin is there, the stall owner must surrender one of his hands, and he may even choose which one. The surrounding crowd begins wondering whether this explains why nobody has ever won the game. Denian also becomes curious. The gambler continues pressuring the stall owner to prove his innocence. The man refuses, making the gambler even more convinced that he is a fraud. Suddenly, the gambler notices Denian watching from nearby. The moment he senses her exceptionally pure physique, he completely loses interest in the gambling dispute. He casually throws a stack of coins at the stall owner, tells him to leave, and immediately follows Denian instead. The fortunate swindler realizes he has escaped disaster by pure luck. The gambler follows Denian all the way to the Golden Wall Trading Clan estate. Without hesitation, he walks straight through the gates. There the chief manager warmly greets him. When the conversation turns to the young woman, the manager explains that she is Denian, one of Bektassin's personal attendants. He also remarks that this visitor is far from the first person to take an interest in her. The chief manager immediately warns the visitor that Denian cannot be taken away because even the divine physician had previously tried to recruit her. The eccentric needle doctor scoffs at the comparison. He believes no one would reject an offer from him. Soon afterward he meets Bektassin. Confident he is dealing with an inexperienced young man, the doctor turns his attention to Denian. Although she appears very young, he assumes she must have maintained her appearance through rare elixirs. Bektassin, already tired of the situation, asks why every famous physician who visits immediately becomes interested in his maid. The doctor explains that Denian possesses extraordinary potential. In his opinion, her talent is being wasted. If she trained under him for 10 years, she could become both an outstanding physician and a powerful martial artist. Bektassin laughs. He remarks that the doctor hardly looks like a martial arts master himself and hopes he at least knows a little about medicine. The insult immediately engages the doctor. Before he can reply, he suddenly senses a deadly attack. Instinctively, he closes his eyes. When he opens them again, he realizes Bektassin has simply extended his hand for a pulse examination. Bektassin wants to judge the doctor's ability for himself. The doctor stares at the offered hand in shock. For a brief moment, he even forgets to breathe. If Bektassin had been holding a sword instead of extending his hand, he feels certain he would already be dead. Bektassin impatiently orders him to begin the examination. As the doctor checks his pulse, he becomes increasingly puzzled. Although Bektassin possesses virtually no usable internal energy, the terrifying pressure surrounding him is unlike anything he has ever experienced. His examination reveals that Bektassin's body is in catastrophic condition. Bektassin asks how long recovery would take. The doctor admits he can restore several major meridians, but the process would take an extremely long time. He advises Bektassin to stop chasing a complete recovery and simply accept his condition. Hearing that, Bektassin concludes that the divine physician is actually the superior healer. At least the divine physician estimated recovery would require only a few years. Disappointed, Bektassin remarks that the eccentric needle doctor seems lacking in both medicine and martial art. The doctor loses his temper and proposes a wager. Bektassin, who enjoys betting, immediately becomes interested. The doctor offers to fight anyone Bektassin chooses. If he wins, he will take every one of Bektassin's maids as his disciples. Bektassin asks what he will receive if he wins. The doctor boasts that even the Murim Alliance and the Black Moon swordsman value his services, offering himself as the prize. Bektassin finds that insufficient. He demands the doctor wager both his body and soul by swearing absolute loyalty if he loses. Confident in his own strength, the doctor accepts. They soon arrive at the training ground. The doctor asks who his opponent will be. Bektassin calmly announces that he will fight personally. The doctor is disappointed, believing the young man simply wants to lose. Rather than ending the match immediately, Bektassin decides to observe the doctor's true ability first. The doctor remains confused. Judging from Bektassin's pulse, the young man should barely be alive. He even wonders whether Bektassin has become suicidal and attempts to discourage him. Bektassin grows tired of the endless lecture. He orders the doctor to stop talking and attack. The doctor finally agrees but warns Bektassin not to blame him if he dies. Bektassin only smiles and tells him not to hold back. Irritated by the confident expression on Bektassin's face, the doctor opens with his strongest technique. He throws several needles as a distraction while secretly infusing internal energy into 6 others aimed directly at Bektassin's vital point. This is his famous 6 needles art, an attack he believes impossible to evade. The needles fly forward. Not a single one touches Bektassin. The doctor is stunned. Bektassin simply sighs in disappointment. He admits the technique is not entirely worthless, but it is nowhere near enough. As overwhelming energy begins gathering around him, even the doctor instinctively recoils. In the next instant, Bektassin appears directly before him and lightly places a palm against his chest. The seemingly gentle strike launches the doctor completely off the training platform. He crashes into a wall, shattering it on impact. To his disbelief, the very needles he threw are now embedded throughout his own body. Unable to comprehend what happened, he wonders whether Bektassin used some kind of sorcery. Still unwilling to accept defeat, he vows not to miss again. Bektassin merely laughs at his stubborn confidence. Then he vanishes. Even after concentrating enormous amounts of internal energy into his eyesight, the doctor cannot follow Bektassin's movements. Before he realizes it, Bektassin is already standing behind him. Concluding that the doctor truly understands nothing about martial arts, Bektassin strikes him unconscious with a single blow. Only after nightfall does the eccentric needle doctor regain consciousness. The divine physician has been watching over him the entire time. He bluntly remarks that losing consciousness from a single strike is rather embarrassing. He also informs the doctor that several restrictions have been placed on him as a precaution. Only then does the eccentric needle doctor realize he now belongs completely to Bektassin. The divine physician comments that, since they are both now bound to the same master, they might as well learn to work together. The following day, Bektassin visits his family's residence. His father notices that Bektassin's condition has improved significantly. The arrival of both the divine physician and the eccentric needle doctor has clearly exceeded expectations. He has also heard that the eccentric needle doctor has chosen to remain with Bektassin. Bektassin's older brother explains why he requested the meeting. The Yang clan recently informed them that the River Martial Alliance of Hubei is gathering promising young martial artists, and Yan Heron has also received an invitation. Ordinarily, it would be unusual for a merchant clan to attend such an event. However, the eccentric needle doctor received the same invitation and had already agreed to participate before arriving here. After carefully introducing the subject, the older brother suggests that Bektassin accompany the doctor. Bektassin quickly understands his brother's intention. Since he also wants additional training, he readily agrees. His brother thanks him and explains that the River Martial Alliance is the strongest martial organization in all of Hubei. Missing such an opportunity would be a waste. Bektassin quietly wonders whether anyone within such a prestigious alliance will finally prove to be a worthy opponent. The story then shifts to the House of White Flowers. The mistress asks her subordinates how the Golden Heavenly Alliance reacted after its recent failures. Her assistant reports that the alliance was completely caught off guard by the Golden Wall trading clan's unexpected strength, and is still struggling to decide its next move. The mistress agrees. Even she failed to realize that someone as terrifying as Bektassin was hiding within the clan. She becomes increasingly curious about his true identity, especially after learning he possesses knowledge of the long-lost shadow step technique. She orders her subordinates to closely monitor the Golden Wall trading clan. They are to discover every martial arts manual and every rare elixir the clan acquires. At the same time, she warns them to exercise extreme caution. They must treat the Golden Wall trading clan as an exceptionally dangerous and unpredictable enemy. Above all else, they are forbidden from approaching the second young master directly. The mistress of the House of White Flowers has a strong feeling that her future relationship with Bektassin may determine the fate of the entire Hao faction during the coming upheaval. The story then returns to Bektassin's estate. Suso sits down to write a long letter to her parents, telling them about everything that has happened recently. She hopes they are doing as well as she is in her new home. She also explains that she will soon leave Wuhan on a journey to the famous River Martial Alliance, so she may not be able to write as regularly as before. Sus is still amazed that someone as ordinary as herself has ended up accompanying such important people to such an extraordinary place. To her, Bektassin is truly remarkable. She also writes about the arrival of the two legendary physicians. For some mysterious reason, both famous doctors become unusually quiet whenever Bektassin is nearby, and she finds their strange relationship entertaining, almost like watching a play. Lately, the three of them have gathered together almost every evening. From outside, it seems as though they are conducting some secret training. Every night she hears loud screams, and whenever she quietly peeks through the window, she sees a brilliant purple light shining from Bektassin's residence. Whatever they are doing appears to be working. Bektassin looks healthier every day, and even the two doctors themselves seem to have changed for the better. Occasionally, however, Bektassin mutters odd remarks to himself, such as claiming the doctors are far better than the courtesans at a brothel, leaving Suso completely confused. Even so, she believes she now lives among kind and caring people. Although she once felt lonely in the large estate, she now feels as though she has gained a new family. She ends her letter by promising to write again as soon as she safely returns to Wuhan and asks her parents not to worry about her. Several days later, Bektassin visits the House of White Flowers again to check on his newest subordinate. He first asks about the progress of the investigation he assigned. The mistress explains that a detailed report has already been sent to him. Bektassin then asks a different question. He wants to know how her investigation into his own past is progressing. The woman immediately goes pale. Realizing he somehow discovered the secret investigation, she quickly kneels and apologizes. She explains that she only wanted to learn more about him in order to serve him better. Since her agents have been extremely cautious, the investigation remains incomplete. She also insists the investigation covers the Golden Wall trading clan as a whole rather than Bektasen personally. Bektasen ignores the excuses and asks only what they have actually learned. She admits they have uncovered very little. The only conclusion her agents reached is that Bektasen is hiding an important secret beyond even her understanding. The answer disappoints him somewhat. He changes the subject and asks for information regarding the River Marshall Alliance. The mistress confidently declares that no organization surpasses the Hao faction when it comes to gathering intelligence on Murim's major powers. She promises to prepare the most comprehensive report possible. Bektasen also instructs her to select several of the faction's most capable agents, because he has an important matter within the River Marshall Alliance that will require reliable assistance. He then asks for paper and a brush. Without hesitation, he begins writing. When he finishes, he tosses the completed page to the woman. The moment she reads it, she is completely stunned. A single glance is enough for her to recognize the legendary shadow step technique that the Hao faction has searched for over countless years. Bektasen explains that the manuscript is only a partial version. He tells her to continue proving her value. If she performs well enough, the complete shadow step technique may eventually become hers. With it, she could even challenge for leadership of the Hao faction itself. Only then does she truly understand the priceless treasure she is holding. Soon afterward, the time comes for Bektasen to leave for the River Marshall Alliance. His older brother and the clan's chief manager personally come to see him off. His brother cannot help reflecting on how much Bektasen has changed. Although he still instinctively thinks of him as the little boy who used to crawl beneath his desk, he now watches that same child shoulder the responsibilities of the clan. Seeing Bektasen healthier than ever brings him relief, yet he still worries about his condition. The chief manager reminds him that Bektasen now travels with the two greatest physicians in the region. There is little reason to worry. His older brother can only smile bitterly. He genuinely cares about Bektasen now, despite once poisoning him during their struggle for power. With those regrets lingering in his heart, he returns to his duties. Even so, he cannot shake the feeling that an event capable of changing the entire world is drawing near. The story then shifts to a hidden residence belonging to Sadogan. Inside, two cloaked figures stand among shelves filled with mysterious items while discussing preparations for an important operation. Everything requested by the elder has been completed. Now they need only wait for the right people to arrive. Once preparations are finished, the master orders his subordinate to personally oversee the operation. The subordinate respectfully accepts the mission and departs immediately. Left alone, the master reflects bitterly on their crushing defeat in Wuhan. Even with the tremendous support they provided, the Golden Heavenly Alliance has become a useless pawn. If they fail once again, the Elder himself will undoubtedly punish them. Simply imagining such a fate terrifies him. Even so, as he surveys the preparations around him, he quietly anticipates meeting that long-awaited person again. Meanwhile, Bektasen continues traveling comfortably toward the River Marshall Alliance in a luxurious carriage. Although the carriage is exceptionally expensive, both physicians understand that such luxury perfectly suits their master. The divine physician remarks that this is only natural for someone of Bektasen's status. Before long, the two doctors begin their usual petty argument as the eccentric needle doctor repeatedly teases the divine physician. Watching them, Jan Heron's bodyguard realizes the two respected masters behave more like quarrelsome children than legendary physicians. She begins to suspect they will eventually come to blows if they continue provoking one another. During the conversation, the eccentric needle doctor suddenly asks why they chose to travel by land instead of taking the much faster river route. The answer is simple. Recently, pirates have been attacking merchant vessels throughout the rivers. Although everyone silently believes the pirates should fear encountering Bektasen rather than the other way around, only the eccentric needle doctor says so aloud. The others quietly agree without commenting. The divine physician then remembers that Jan Heron is also traveling to the River Marshall Alliance. Concerned for her safety, he suggests asking her attendants to join their group. Jan Heron's bodyguard explains that her mistress has already departed aboard her own ship. She doubts Jan Heron even knows about Bektassen's travel plan. The divine physician is surprised she would choose such a dangerous route while pirates are so active. Jan Heron's bodyguard, however, remains unconcerned. She knows the Yang clan has more than enough experienced warriors accompanying her mistress to keep her safe. Jan Heron's bodyguard explains that her mistress is also a capable martial artist. There are very few female warriors in the Yang clan, which is why she was chosen to become Jan Heron's personal guard. Even so, she believes her mistress surpasses her in every aspect of martial arts. The divine physician realizes the modest girl has no idea how strong she has become. Considering that everyone she compares herself to is a monster like Bektassen, her lack of confidence is understandable. She recalls the day Lord Yang introduced her to his daughter as her new personal guard and training partner. She respectfully bowed and pledged to serve her. Jan Heron stopped her sword practice, greeted her with a warm smile and extended her hand, saying she hoped they would grow stronger together and protect one another. Later, the group stops to rest and have dinner before continuing their journey. Rather than resting, Kyongyun and Jan Heron's bodyguard immediately resume their usual training. This time, however, she fights with far greater intensity. After only a few exchanges, Kyongyun realizes something is wrong. Her attacks are unusually aggressive and unpredictable. At one point, she nearly pierces him with her sword, forcing him to defend himself with more strength than intended. In the process, he accidentally cuts her shoulder. The training immediately stops. Kyongyun rushes over and anxiously asks if she is all right, but despite the pain, she insists on continuing. He refuses, explaining that the wound is too deep and must be treated by the divine physician. Before they can continue the conversation, Suso happily announces that dinner is ready. Kyongyun starts toward the table with her, but Jan Heron's bodyguard suddenly walks away, clearly wanting to be alone. Realizing she needs time to think, he decides not to follow. During dinner, the divine physician constantly teases the eccentric needle doctor, entertaining everyone with their endless bickering. Only Kyongyun remains silent, repeatedly glancing toward the place where Jan Heron's bodyguard disappeared. Noticing his concern, the divine physician approaches him. He quickly realizes Kyongyun is worried and tells him he should go check on her, otherwise he may regret doing nothing. Kyongyun admits he has no idea what to say. The physician advises him not to overthink it. Simply showing genuine concern will already mean a great deal. Believing Kyongyun's honest personality will only help, he hands him several rice balls to bring to her. When Kyongyun quietly reaches the training ground, he finds her still practicing alone beneath the moonlight. She repeatedly strikes a massive boulder, trying to cut through it. At that moment, Bektassen arrives. He praises her refined technique, but immediately notices that distracting thoughts are clouding her mind. Because of that, she failed to notice his silent approach. Had he been a real enemy, she would already be dead. He advises her to clear her mind completely and remain vigilant at all times. She remarks that very few people could move so silently. Bektassen replies that he personally knows at least 500 martial artists capable of doing the same, and countless more likely exist. If she chooses not to believe him, she is free to remain trapped by the limits she created for herself. His words strike her deeply. Suddenly, everything becomes clear. She remembers doubting that Bektassen could defeat a martial arts master in only 5 moves, kill the Crimson Dragon sect leader so effortlessly, or overcome the Yongli clan's elite warriors. Only now does she realize those doubts were simply limits she imposed on herself. Kyongyun watches in confusion as she unexpectedly enters a rare state of enlightenment. Bektassen quietly leaves. Before departing, he lets Kyongyun know he was aware he had been watching the entire time. Once Bektassen is gone, Kyongyun immediately remains beside her. Fortunately, nothing disturbs the process. She simply needs to complete her enlightenment without interruption. By the time she regains consciousness, dawn has arrived. Only then does she realize she truly entered the legendary state of enlightenment she had only heard about. Turning around, she finds Kyongyun still kneeling beside her after guarding her throughout the entire night. Despite his exhaustion, he happily congratulates her. Embarrassed, she asks how long he has been there and why he never rested. He explains that he feared someone might interrupt her enlightenment or harm her while she was defenseless. His answer leaves her speechless. She also notices the package of food he prepared in case she became hungry after waking. Although it is now cold, she gratefully accepts it and sincerely thanks him. Kyunggyun smiles happily while waiting for her to finish eating. Only afterward does he ask her to help him stand because his legs have become completely numb from kneeling all night. The group then resumes its journey to the River Martial Alliance. Inside the carriage, Baektasen praises Jan Haren's bodyguard for reaching enlightenment without complications. She immediately thanks him, knowing she could never have succeeded without his guidance. Baektasen calmly reminds her that entering enlightenment is extremely dangerous. If something goes wrong, the resulting energy deviation could leave lasting injuries or even prevent her from ever awakening. He only walked away because he knew a trustworthy person was already guarding her. After hearing those words, she and Kyunggyun exchange warm smiles. Sitting between them, Suso can barely hide her amusement, fully aware that the two are deeply in love. Even Baektasen is pleased that his shy bodyguard has finally taken a meaningful step forward in his relationship. Soon, the group safely reaches Hubei province and enters the busy city of Yichang. The divine physician immediately looks around for the famous River Martial Alliance. When they finally stop at an inn, he happily stretches his sore back, relieved that he can finally spend the night in a proper building. While walking through the crowded streets of the city, Baektasen notices a man quietly bow before him. The stranger approaches, whispers a brief report into his ear, and disappears into the crowd as quickly as he arrived. Curious, Suso asks who the mysterious man was. The divine physician immediately guesses that he was an agent from the Hao faction, and Baektasen confirms it. The agent reported that, according to their information, a Yang clan ship would arrive at the harbor within the next hour. Baektasen asks Jan Haren's bodyguard to meet her mistress when she arrives in the unfamiliar city. Suso wonders whether Baektasen intentionally timed their arrival so both groups would reach the city together. He replies that it is simply a fortunate coincidence. Since Jan Haren and her bodyguard have not seen each other for some time, he thinks it is a good opportunity for them to reunite. His thoughtful concern touches both Suso and Jan Haren's bodyguard. Soon, Jan Haren steps off her ship and looks around the lively harbor. Although the scenery is beautiful, she cannot fully enjoy it because she misses her closest friend. A familiar voice suddenly calls out to her. Turning around, she is overjoyed to see her bodyguard waiting for her. Without hesitation, she rushes forward and embraces her tightly. She happily says she never expected to meet her here and cannot believe such a coincidence. More than anything, she is glad they can finally spend time together again. Their reunion is interrupted when a young nobleman approaches. He is the eldest son of the influential Jaimin clan. Displeased by what he sees, he criticizes Jan Haren for embracing someone he immediately identifies as a commoner. Looking at the bodyguard's clothing and manners, he concludes she is from a lower class and openly looks down on her. Jan Haren immediately defends her. She firmly explains that this woman is not only her personal bodyguard but also her closest friend. The nobleman merely laughs. In his opinion, nobles should never become close to their servants because commoners eventually forget their proper place. He also claims the bodyguard has already proven unreliable by leaving her mistress alone during the journey and adds that she hardly looks capable of protecting anyone. Jan Haren angrily defends her friend's honor. Hearing those words reminds Jan Haren's bodyguard of her childhood. She remembers punching a noble boy after he declared that girls should never practice martial arts. When servants began searching for the injured noble, Jan Haren stepped forward and accepted full responsibility, knowing a servant would otherwise suffer severe punishment. As expected, Jan Haren endured the punishment herself and later returned with legs so badly beaten she could barely stand. Even then, she smiled and insisted she was perfectly fine. The bodyguard never understood why Jan Haren would go so far for her. Jan Haren simply answered that they were true friends and even asked her to call her by name instead of treating her like a noble. Remembering that promise, Jan Haren's bodyguard restrains herself from striking the arrogant nobleman despite wanting to. Just then someone calls out from behind. The divine physician arrives together with Baektasen and the others. He politely explains that they came to greet Jan Haren and make sure she arrived safely. Seeing Baektasen, Jan Haren immediately blushes. At the same time, Baektasen and the Jaimin clan exchange openly hostile looks. The nobleman quickly realizes Baektasen is the former fiancé he has heard so much about. Baektasen calmly asks Jan Haren whether the rumors about their broken engagement are actually true. From her reaction, he immediately realizes the rumors are nothing more than baseless gossip. He then asks the nobleman who he is, and why he is accompanying his fiancée so casually. Flustered, Jan Heron quickly explains that everyone traveling with her represents respected clans. Her father arranged for them to travel together for safety, and there is absolutely nothing personal between them. Satisfied by her answer, Bektasen invites the entire group to stay at the same inn, remarking that they are practically family. The group heads there together. The Jaimin clan heir, however, burns with jealousy. Unable to stop Bektasen, he first decides to settle his own attendance before planning his next move. During the entire journey, Jan Heron never once smiled sincerely at him. Yet she immediately brightened the moment she saw Bektasen. The realization wounds his pride. He becomes determined to make Jan Heron marry him instead of what he considers a mere merchant clan heir. Meanwhile, Bektasen walks beside Jan Heron. She quietly studies his matured appearance. The moment he notices and looks back at her, she shyly averts her eyes, blushing once again. Jan Heron's bodyguard notices the exchange and begins suspecting that something important happened between them long ago when they were children. The longer Bektasen looks at Jan Heron, the more she reminds him of someone from his previous life. That woman had believed in him without hesitation and encouraged him to become the supreme leader of the heavenly demon sacred sect. He loved her deeply, but she died in his arms, leaving a wound that never truly healed. Before long, the group arrives at the River Martial Alliance. Bektasen is immediately impressed by its enormous size, far exceeding his expectations for a regional organization. The divine physician explains that this complex is only about half the size of the famous Righteous Alliance. Although it is modestly called the Hubei Alliance, its influence and scale make it comparable to a smaller version of the Righteous Alliance itself. Bektasen silently agrees. The group is escorted to an elegant residence reserved for distinguished guests. After looking around, Suso happily approves of their accommodations. Their guide proudly explains that, as honored guests, they have been ordered to receive the highest level of hospitality. The divine physician immediately assumes such luxurious treatment is naturally due to his own great reputation finally reaching the River Martial Alliance. The eccentric needle doctor immediately claims the luxurious treatment is obviously because of his own arrival, since he alone received an official invitation from the River Martial Alliance. The divine physician insists the credit belongs to him instead. The two nearly come to blows before Bektasen sternly orders them to stop. He then announces that he intends to search the alliance for more capable physicians, believing an organization of this size should have plenty of talented healers. The divine physician cannot understand why Bektasen needs more doctors when he already has the two greatest physicians in the region. Bektasen calmly explains that he has been drawing too much life energy from them, reducing their effectiveness as energy sources. Both doctors instinctively shudder as they remember the painful energy extraction session. Even so, they admit each session has left their own bodies healthier and stronger. The discussion quickly shifts to where they can find suitable replacement. The divine physician suggests visiting the local medical halls and recruiting promising physicians. The eccentric needle doctor praises the idea but confidently insists he is far more qualified to judge a doctor's true ability. The divine physician immediately proposes another wager. Interested, the eccentric needle doctor asks about the stake. If he wins, he wants to learn the divine physician's true identity, which he has hidden so carefully. The divine physician replies that the truth may be more than he can handle, but ultimately accepts. If he wins instead, he wants the eccentric needle doctor to teach him one of his greatest secret techniques. The request infuriates the needle doctor because it is the most valuable thing he possesses. The divine physician clarifies that he has no interest in its combat applications. He only wants its medical acupuncture techniques to improve his own healing skill. Although the eccentric needle doctor regrets agreeing to the wager, he cannot back out now. They decide the winner will be whichever physician finds the people who contribute the most to Bektasen's treatment. The divine physician silently vows that this time he will finally uncover his rival's true identity. Soon afterward, both doctors stand guard outside Bektasen's room while he absorbs life energy from several local physicians. Listening from outside, they notice the new doctors scream quite differently from previous subjects. Their pain is noticeably less intense. Suddenly, the doors burst open. Baektasan steps outside wearing a dissatisfied expression. He orders every one of the physicians to be dismissed immediately because none of them meet his expectation. Starting the following day, he wants only one new physician brought to him each day for closer evaluation. The divine physician is surprised by how many candidates failed, but immediately agrees. The eccentric needle doctor asks what qualities Baektasan is actually looking for. Baektasan replies that the answer will also determine the outcome of their wager, because he will judge them based on the quality of the people they bring him. After they leave, Baektasan reflects on the disappointing results. The life energy gathered from ordinary physicians proves far less effective than the energy he received from truly legendary healers. He begins suspecting that a person's professional skill and purity of soul directly influence the effectiveness of the process. His experiments have already revealed several patterns. Every individual provides a different amount of energy. The souls of physicians repair and restore his damaged body, while the energy of courtesans strengthens desire and passion. He also discovers that people with more corrupted souls suffer greater pain during the extraction, yet provide a much weaker healing effect. From this, Baektasan concludes that what he truly needs now are people with exceptionally pure souls. Just then Suso happily enters the room. She simply wants to make sure her young master is doing well and asks whether he needs anything. The moment Baektasan sees her, he immediately recognizes the pure soul he has been searching for. He gently thanks her for arriving at exactly the right time. Placing a hand on her head, he calmly assures her that she has nothing to fear because she will not feel any pain. Meanwhile, in a remote wilderness late that evening, a gray-bearded old man leads a companion toward a hidden cave. According to their schedule, they should reach it within 2 hours. Along the way, the old man proudly explains that he possesses a special product that requires at least 10 years to mature. Only a handful still remain. Some even matured for 70 years, though only the great elder is permitted to use those exceptional specimens. They are powerful enough to rival even the elders of major clans. Even the ordinary specimens they seek today far surpass most martial artists. Eventually, they arrive at the carefully concealed cave. Although many years have passed since his last visit, the old man easily finds it. After illuminating the interior with a torch, he asks his companion what he thinks. The man is left speechless with horror. Inside the cave lie hundreds of carefully preserved human corpses, each prepared and stored in different stages of completion. The old man proudly presents them as valuable merchandise. The story then returns to Sadogan's hidden base. A sinister ritual has already begun over the prepared bodies. Black-robed drummers beat enormous drums with a hypnotic rhythm while a shaman continuously chants ancient incantations. The observers know the ritual is nearing its final stage. Soon, the souls sealed inside special containers will completely return to the prepared body. Sadogan's loyal subordinate explains that the resulting creations resemble jiangshi, a unique form of undead. Unlike ordinary jiangshi, however, these bodies were not created from living people transformed through special methods. Instead, they were infused with concentrated death energy while retaining functioning human souls. The souls placed inside them belong to entirely different people. In a sense, the dead have truly been brought back to life in altered bodies. The obvious question then becomes how such resurrected beings can be controlled. The leader believes the answer lies in an ancient secret technique possessed only by the oldest members of the Blood Cycle clan. Most likely, each resurrected soul is bound by an extremely powerful restriction that guarantees complete obedience. Although his subordinate privately questions his master's true loyalty to the Blood Cycle clan, he wisely keeps those doubts to himself. At last, the ritual reaches its final stage. The drums suddenly fall silent. The lights disappear, leaving the chamber in complete darkness. Moments later, the resurrected bodies slowly begin opening their eyes and moving for the very first time. The story returns to the River Martial Alliance, where the two rival physicians patiently wait in the Alliance leader's office. Before long, the leader, Baklong, enters and warmly welcomes the two renowned healers. Both immediately bow respectfully, and humbly insist that he gives them too much credit. Baklong laughs and modestly describes himself as merely one cog in the vast organization before inviting them to sit. As the conversation begins, both doctors sense an unusually powerful aura surrounding him. Baklong brings up the rumors that both of them have settled in the Golden Wall trading clan. Neither denies it. He admits his surprise, As the greatest physicians in the region, they could have joined any major clan or organization. His assumption is correct. The Namong clan, the Jagal clan, and even the Righteous Alliance attempted to recruit the divine physician. The mysterious Black Alliance also approached the eccentric needle doctor. That only makes Backlong more curious about the Golden Wall trading clan. He cannot understand why they rejected so many prestigious offers. The divine physician explains that he finally found someone who truly appreciates his worth. The eccentric needle doctor cannot reveal the full truth and simply admits he lost a fair wager, although he knows that is far from the whole story. Backlong quickly realizes something important. Neither physician serves the Golden Wall trading clan itself. They serve only its second young master. The fate of the rest of the clan means little to them. That realization leaves Backlong even more impressed by Bektasen. If someone capable of commanding both legendary physicians stood with the River Martial Alliance, the alliance could one day compete for supremacy throughout Muram. He resolves to meet Bektasen as soon as possible and attempt to recruit him. Meanwhile, Suso finally wakes up in her room. The last thing she remembers is being with Bektasen. Although she assumes it was only a pleasant dream, the warmth of his gentle touch still feels incredibly real. Suddenly realizing she has overslept, she hurriedly gets out of bed. As she walks into the corridor, she notices an unusual glow coming from Bektasen's room and becomes curious about what is happening inside. At that very moment, Bektasen is deep in meditation. The life energy he absorbed from Suso's exceptionally pure soul proves unlike anything he has experienced before. The moment he connected with her innocent soul, he felt a level of purity entirely different from everyone else. His body and soul gradually begin reaching perfect balance. Previously, he struggled merely to reconnect his damaged body in order to survive. Now, everything naturally strengthens and stabilizes from within. The demonic art continues to exceed his expectations. After this latest session, his body is almost completely restored, allowing him to experience a sense of peace and strength he has not felt in a very long time. Soon afterward, the River Martial Alliance gathers the most promising young martial artists of the generation for a grand assembly. Although many talented participants are present, countless eyes are drawn toward Yan Heron because of her exceptional beauty. She, however, pays no attention to the admirers. Instead, she anxiously searches for Bektasen, who has remained inside his room for the past 2 days. Seeing her concern, Yan Heron's bodyguard gently reassures her. She explains that Bektasen is most likely organizing everything he gained from his recent breakthrough. She also happily shares that she recently experienced enlightenment herself, thanks entirely to Bektasen's guidance. Yan Heron sincerely congratulates her and finally understands why her old friend now appears so much stronger and more confident than before. Their conversation is interrupted once again by the Jaimin clan heir. Pretending to be concerned, he asks why Yan Heron is alone instead of accompanying her fiancé. Although she politely greets him, she clearly has no desire to continue the conversation. Internally, the young noble is pleased that everything is unfolding according to his plans. He invites Yan Heron to join him and his companions for drinks, claiming to know an excellent place in the city. Seeing her hesitate because of Bektasen, he arrogantly remarks that a mere merchant from the Golden Wall trading clan is unworthy of someone of her status and beauty. Yan Heron politely refuses, explaining that she wishes to stay with her fiancé because of his health. The nobleman suddenly grabs her hand. He insists that fine wine can cure any illness and repeatedly pressures her to accompany him. Yan Heron's bodyguard immediately steps between them and firmly orders him to stop harassing her mistress. She points out that his behavior toward an already engaged woman is completely inappropriate. The nobleman is deeply offended that a mere bodyguard dares lecture him. He proudly reminds her that he is the heir of the powerful Jaimin clan. To him, she is nothing more than a servant who could never withstand the consequences of offending someone of his rank. He coldly asks whether she is prepared to accept the punishment that would follow such disrespect. When she remains silent, he arrogantly orders Yan Heron to come with him. Before anyone can react, another figure enters the hall. The room immediately fills with whispers praising the newcomer's remarkable appearance. Many quickly realize he is the mysterious second young master of the Golden Wall trading clan, whose recent exploits have become the subject of countless rumors. Yan Heron finally sees Bektasen and smiles with obvious relief after waiting so long for his arrival. As he approaches, Bektasen quietly sighs. He immediately recognizes the source of the disturbance and calmly fixes his gaze on the smug Jaimin clan heir, carefully assessing his opponent. Far away, at Sadogan's hidden residence, the resurrected souls continue regaining consciousness. Having completed the ritual, they look around in confusion, unable to understand where they are or what has happened. Each remembers dying, yet every one of them now occupies an unfamiliar body. Sadogan approaches one of the resurrected warriors to inspect his condition. The newly awakened man instinctively attempts to kill him. At the last moment, however, he stops and demands to know who Sadogan is and why he has been brought back. Sadogan calmly introduces himself. He explains that the powerful elder Hukryong Bigwin mercifully restored their lives and that, in return, they must faithfully serve him from this day forward. The moment those words are spoken, the hidden restrictions placed upon every resurrected soul activate. Instantly, all of the resurrected Jiangshi lose their resistance and submit completely to Sadogan's command. At the River Martial Alliance, the Jaimin clan heir angrily confronts Baektasin. He cannot believe that a mere merchant dares stand before him. In fact, he has been looking for Baektasin specifically to settle matters once and for all. He arrogantly demands to know how much longer Baektasin intends to burden the noble Yan Heron with his unworthy presence. Baektasin calmly asks what he means. The Jaimin clan heir explains that Baektasin holds no real status even within the Golden Wall trading clan. In his opinion, someone like him has no right to remain engaged to such a noble woman. He insists Baektasin should immediately break off the engagement so Yan Heron can marry someone truly worthy. Baektasin quickly realizes the man is referring to himself. The nobleman becomes even angrier when Baektasin shows no concern for his prestigious clan. Baektasin points out that he constantly hides behind his clan's reputation and without it, would be nothing more than a laughingstock. Infuriated, the Jaimin clan heir immediately challenges him to a one-on-one duel outside. He and his attendants surround Baektasin, preparing for what they consider a fair fight. Baektasin simply tells him to stop wasting time and attack. The nobleman assumes Baektasin is bluffing out of fear. However, Yan Heron's bodyguard calmly explains that she recently reached enlightenment and now needs a proper opponent to test her progress. The Jaimin clan heir agrees to become that opponent. He immediately attacks with his battle fan. Baektasin effortlessly dodges the strike. In one smooth motion, he grabs the man's wrist, twists it as though he weighs nothing, and throws him hard onto the ground in front of his stunned attendants. Everyone watches in disbelief. No one imagines someone could humiliate the Jaimin clan heir so easily. The fight is not over. Baektasin casually tosses the battle fan into the air and kicks it toward the guards. The heavy fan strikes one of them directly in the forehead, knocking him unconscious. Another guard rushes over to help his fallen master. Furious, the Jaimin clan heir insists Baektasin attacked only because his guard was down and declares their fight is far from over. He and his remaining guard assume fighting stances and confidently tell Baektasin to attack. Certain that 2 against 1 will overwhelm him, they prepare to demonstrate the martial arts of the Jaimin clan. Baektasin instantly closes the distance. He casually tells them to endure a little longer because he has not even begun fighting seriously. No matter how they try to stop him, they cannot follow his movements. He vanishes from their sight and appears behind them. With a single motion, he slams their heads together. Both men collapse unconscious at his feet. When the Jaimin clan heir finally regains consciousness, he sees Baektasin calmly examining the unconscious guards. The moment their eyes meet, terror prevents him from speaking. Baektasin politely thanks him and his companion. Thanks to them, he was able to learn something valuable about his newly improved abilities. Now only one final test remains to confirm his conclusions. Meanwhile, during the River Martial Alliance's ceremonial gathering, Alliance leader Baklong appears in person. Everyone wonders why he has come. His original purpose was to meet Baektasin, but he failed to find him among the assembled guests. Stepping outside, he finally encounters Baektasin returning from his fight. Baklong asks whether Baektasin recognizes him. Baektasin studies his face carefully. He admits the man seems familiar, but he cannot remember exactly where they met. Many nearby are shocked that someone would speak so casually to the Alliance leader. Even Baklong is surprised by Baektasin's composure. Looking more closely, Baektasin finally remembers. Many years ago, during negotiations with the Righteous Alliance, he met Baklong when he was still a young boy struggling to withstand the pressure of the Alliance leader's overwhelming aura. Even then, Baklong remembered the boy's remarkable determination despite his lack of strength. Seeing him again now confirmed confirms just how much Baklong has grown over the years. Baklong explains that he wishes to discuss an important matter. Bektasin calmly replies that meaningful conversations require mutual interest. Baklong reveals that Bektasin is the very first name on the list of people he wishes to recruit. Bektasin declines without hesitation. Instead, he jokingly suggests Baklong move on to the next person on his list. He even gestures toward a nearby young martial artist, recommending him instead. Baklong cannot help admiring Bektasin's confidence. Very few people would reject the opportunity to build a relationship with the leader of the River Martial Alliance. Such confidence would be expected from the leader of the Righteous Alliance, but certainly not from the son of a merchant clan. Bektasin quietly concludes that defeating the Baklong of the past would have been simple. Confronting the current alliance leader inside his own territory, however, would create unnecessary complications. Rather than cause trouble, he calmly walks away. The story then shifts to the Black Iron Forge in Yichang City. Despite the late hour, the furnaces continue burning as the blacksmiths work tirelessly to complete an urgent order for the River Martial Alliance. Suddenly, one of the blacksmiths begins trembling. Looking outside, he is startled to find an unnaturally thick fog spreading across the clear night. His companion tells him to stop daydreaming and continue working because the deadline is approaching. Even so, the uneasy blacksmith keeps staring into the mist. Gradually, he notices two shadowy figures. As they draw closer, horror fills his face. He realizes they are not ordinary people. From a distance, the strange figures are difficult to identify, but something about them is deeply unnatural. As their glowing red eyes emerge from the fog, the blacksmith's fear grows. Standing among them is a mysterious leader carrying a small handbell. Each time the bell rings, the silent undead immediately obey his commands. With another sharp ring, the undead charge toward the forge. The blacksmiths quickly extinguish every furnace and hide in the deepest corner of the workshop. Unfortunately, there is no escape from their hiding place. Outside, one surviving horse remains their only hope. If they can somehow reach it, they may still escape. Waiting until the undead move slightly away, one blacksmith suddenly dashes toward the horse. Moments later, the undead catch the scent of a living human and begin moving toward him. One blacksmith manages to reach his horse and gallops away from the forge. Relieved, he believes he has escaped. All he has to do is pass through the city gates just ahead. Suddenly, an unusually powerful undead appears in his path. Leaping through the air without touching the ground, it rapidly closes the distance. Neither the fleeing blacksmith nor any of the others manages to escape. Soon, the undead gather in the center of the city square. The blood of their victims slowly flows toward them, collecting into a single mass. Gradually, it forms the image of Elder Hukryong Bigwin. As he surveys his obedient servants, the crimson stone embedded in his forehead emits a sinister glow. Meanwhile, Bektasin quietly meditates inside his room at the River Martial Alliance. After absorbing energy from the three souls, he discovers another property of the demonic art of soul strengthening. Once their energy is refined, his perception expands dramatically, allowing countless new insights to emerge. Although the energy contained within these souls is far inferior to that of the physicians, it serves as the key to unlocking hidden knowledge. The more he studies the demonic art, the more he realizes how extraordinary its true potential is. Before long, the two physicians return with new candidates. After carefully examining both men, the divine physician confidently claims his candidate is clearly superior. The eccentric needle doctor immediately argues that his rival always believes himself better than everyone else. Bektasin calmly judges that neither physician brought a better candidate. The contest ends in a draw. Privately, however, he is disappointed. The quality of both candidates falls far below the standard of the legendary physicians he previously encountered. In his eyes, both doctors have completely failed. As a result, they must both fulfill the promises they made if they lost. The two physicians protest, insisting the decision is unfair. Bektasin only smiles. He warns them that he will personally ensure every promise is honored. He also makes it clear that neither of them should ever make another wager without his permission. The warning immediately silences both doctors. Not long afterward, the Alliance's chief manager urgently reports troubling news to Baklong. The entire Black Iron Forge has vanished. At first, Baklong cannot understand the report. A forge is far too large to simply disappear. The manager explains that messengers were sent because the blacksmiths failed to arrive and collect payment for their completed work. When investigators reached the forge, they found only an empty building. Not a single person remained, and not even abandoned belongings were left behind. Backlong briefly considers whether the workers left on personal business. The manager dismisses the idea. There was no reason to abandon a substantial payment. At the same time, a mysterious epidemic has begun spreading throughout the surrounding area. Suspecting the two incidents are connected, Backlong orders a full investigation. He also instructs his men to request assistance from the divine physician and the eccentric needle doctor. Helping with the investigation will also provide a good opportunity to strengthen relations with Bektasen. Backlong further orders that any request Bektasen makes during the investigation is to be fulfilled immediately without question. The chief manager respectfully accepts the orders and departs. Left alone, Backlong reflects on Bektasen. Possessing the aura of a true martial artist, he is curious to see how the young man handles this crisis. Soon, Bektasen and the two physicians arrive at the abandoned forge. The moment he steps inside, Bektasen senses an overwhelming scent of blood. No one else notices anything unusual. He explains that this is not an ordinary smell. It is blood energy. Without hesitation, he concludes that everyone who was here is already dead. Although he cannot determine the exact number, he estimates that well over 100 people were killed. He then asks both physicians how familiar they are with poison. They answer that they possess extensive knowledge, although neither compares to the legendary poison demon. Bektasen explains why he asked. The entire area carries traces of the same poison once used by the poison demon. The physicians are alarmed, briefly wondering whether the poison demon himself committed the massacre. Bektasen says nothing of the sort. He simply tells them to investigate carefully. Besides the blood and poison, he senses another disturbing presence. He instructs the physicians to identify that unknown element while analyzing the poison. Meanwhile, he calmly searches the surrounding area on his own. What troubles him most is that the strange energy lingering here strongly resembles the demonic art of soul strengthening. While Bektasen continues investigating, the physicians begin directing the Alliance's warriors, assigning search areas and ordering every discovery to be carefully documented. Before long, Backlong personally arrives. The physicians respectfully greet him and ask why he came himself despite his overwhelming responsibility. Backlong explains that such a serious incident demands his personal attention. He also has another important request. The physicians immediately understand. They assume he wants them to treat those suffering from the mysterious illness. Backlong is impressed that they correctly guessed his intention. The eccentric needle doctor explains that their investigation has already uncovered clear traces of a dangerous poison. It has spread into nearby communities and infected many people. Only then does Backlong realize the supposed epidemic is actually widespread poisoning. Later, Bektasen returns to his quarters. Since it has been some time since he last practiced the heavenly step technique, he uses the opportunity to resume his training while the physicians continue treating patients. After completing several advanced movements, his thoughts return to the poison. He is now certain it is identical to the poison once used by the poison demon. He remembers encountering that man roughly 3 years before his own death as the heavenly demon. The poison demon had believed himself untouchable until fate brought him face to face with the heavenly demon. Had he fought the leader of the righteous alliance instead, the battle might have ended differently. But poison held no power over the heavenly demon. Even the poison demon's strongest toxins failed against the demonic art of soul strengthening, which easily protected him. Completely overwhelmed, the poison demon was forced into submission. As punishment, he followed the heavenly demon everywhere, revealing one secret poison formula each day simply to stay alive. Recalling those memories, Bektasen cannot help finding the man's humiliation amusing. Now, however, he wants to know why the poison demon's poison has appeared here. His thoughts are interrupted when the two physicians return. They have finished analyzing the poison and successfully developed an antidote. They can now produce it whenever necessary. Bektasen immediately orders them to prepare as much of the antidote as possible, because he expects they will soon need a large supply. The eccentric needle doctor then points out something troubling. The deeper they investigate, the stranger the case becomes. Although the poison undeniably belongs to the poison demon, the method of using it does not. The poison was prepared carelessly and lacks the precision expected of someone with the poison demon's skill. Had he truly intended mass murder, the entire city of Yicheng would already be destroyed. Instead, the poison slowly weakens the body's recovery and continuously drains a victim's vitality. Even those who survive eventually become little more than living corpses. The eccentric needle doctor promises that both physicians will continue treating the poisoned residents while the investigation continues. Although the two physicians continue treating the poisoned residents, they still have many other responsibilities assigned by the River Marshal Alliance. Bektasin reflects on the eccentric needle doctor's description of victims becoming living corpses. The condition reminds him of the sinister energy he sensed at the forge, but he still lacks enough information to reach a conclusion. To gather intelligence, he decides to visit the Hao faction's hidden branch. For safety, Kyongyun accompanies him. Along the way, they encounter Yan Heron and her bodyguard. Yan Heron warmly asks where he is going, explaining that she and her friend are on their way to help the two physicians. Bektasin honestly replies that he is heading to the Golden Jade House. His bodyguard is immediately shocked because the Golden Jade House is the city's largest brothel. Bektasin calmly confirms that he is indeed going there on business. The bodyguard immediately scolds him for saying such things in front of his fiancée. Bektasin casually invites both women to come with him if they doubt his intentions so they can see for themselves that nothing improper is happening. Yan Heron does not believe him. She reminds him that she has asked similar questions many times before but has never received honest answers. Clearly upset, she walks away and tells him to do whatever he wants while she helps the physicians instead. Bektasin fails to understand why she reacted so strongly. Assuming she is simply busy with her own responsibilities, he continues on his way. Meanwhile, near the River Marshal Alliance infirmary, Yan Heron and her bodyguard assist the two physicians in treating the poisoned victims. The physicians are visibly exhausted. Having spent years treating only select patients, they are no longer accustomed to caring for large numbers of people. The eccentric needle doctor recalls treating nearly 100 patients a day while training to become a great physician. The divine physician responds that his own master forced him to treat 200 patients every day. The eccentric needle doctor assumes he is exaggerating. The divine physician calmly replies that he has no reason to lie about something so trivial. When asked whether treating so many people affected the quality of his work, he admits it certainly did. His master simply left him no choice. The only person he now fears more than that strict master is Bektasin himself. Even thinking about Bektasin fills him with fear. Curious, the eccentric needle doctor asks whether he knows their master's true identity. The divine physician hesitates, admitting he once met someone remarkably similar. Unable to contain himself any longer, the eccentric needle doctor demands the truth. The divine physician finally confesses that he once belonged to the heavenly demon sacred sect. The eccentric needle doctor immediately regrets forcing the question, realizing he has learned something extremely dangerous. He then asks who Bektasin really is. Before answering, the divine physician suddenly freezes. Rushing to the window, he looks outside and is horrified. The eccentric needle doctor quickly joins him. The moment he sees one of the undead outside, he realizes peace is no longer possible. People on the streets notice the strange figures and wonder what they are. The divine physician immediately orders everyone to get inside the building. Yan Heron does not understand the urgency, but he shouts for everyone to move at once. He also orders the River Marshal Alliance's martial artists to be summoned immediately. Keeping her composure, Yan Heron's bodyguard quickly escorts Yan Heron to safety. As the Alliance's martial artists gather to defend the area, Yan Heron quietly worries about Bektasin despite their earlier disagreement. Meanwhile, Bektasin arrives at the Golden Jade House and meets the mistress of the Hao faction. She apologizes for not being fully prepared because she never expected him to visit personally. Her original plan was to investigate the local disturbances herself before reporting everything to him. Bektasin instead asks why she and so many Hao agents have gathered in Yicheng. She explains that numerous suspicious individuals have recently appeared around the River Marshal Alliance, prompting the Hao faction to begin its own investigation. While operating beneath the cover of the Golden Jade House, they have also been investigating the mysterious disappearance of the Black Iron Forge. Their conversation is interrupted when an urgent messenger from the River Marshal Alliance arrives. With Bektasin's permission, the mistress allows him inside. The messenger respectfully reports that the divine physician and the eccentric needle doctor urgently request Bektasin's immediate presence. Bektasin is surprised. The physicians rarely summon him so urgently unless something serious has happened. The messenger explains that the physicians are waiting waiting at a nearby inn rather than remaining with the poisoned victims because the situation has become too dangerous. He was personally sent to escort Bektasin there. Bektasin immediately notices something suspicious. He never informed the physicians where he was going. When asked how he located him, the messenger vaguely claims he has useful connections throughout the city. The explanation fails to convince Bektasin. With a brief order, he signals Kyongyuan. Kyongyuan instantly restrains the messenger. The man angrily protests, while even the How mistress is surprised by Bektasin's sudden suspicion. Kyongyuan calmly explains his reasoning. Most importantly, the physicians would never abandon their master unless something extraordinary had happened. Bektasin agrees. He orders the How mistress to send agents to the River Marshal Alliance, investigate the nearby inns, and thoroughly examine the messenger's background. The How mistress also suspects this may be a carefully prepared trap. Bektasin cannot dismiss that possibility. Everything surrounding the incident appears highly suspicious. He and Kyongyuan immediately set out to locate the two physicians and uncover the truth. At the same time, the undead completely surround the River Marshal Alliance. The Alliance's martial artists stand ready for battle while the physicians carefully observe the enemy. With the Alliance encircled, they have no opportunity to call for reinforcements or escape. As they study the undead, both physicians realize the creatures seem strangely familiar. Then a hooded figure steps out from the middle of the undead ranks. The divine physician immediately recognizes him. The mysterious man politely asks everyone to lower their weapons. He claims he has only come to speak peacefully with one of the physicians. The divine physician refuses, insisting the man first dismiss his undead servant. Both physicians have already realized these are no ordinary zombies. Life energy and death energy flow through them simultaneously. The divine physician even suspects they may be connected to forbidden techniques once practiced by the heavenly demon sacred sect. If so, the point where the two opposing energies merge is likely their weakness, although he cannot be completely certain. The eccentric needle doctor realizes the divine physician understands far more than he is revealing, but decides to postpone those questions. Instead, he tells the mysterious man to explain himself immediately. The stranger politely apologizes for waiting. He simply wanted to let the physicians finish their discussion before interrupting. He then calmly invites both legendary healers to join his organization. According to him, they can offer rewards beyond anything the two physicians could have ever imagined. The eccentric needle doctor is disappointed that the mysterious man would arrive with bloodthirsty monsters and still dare to offer them cooperation. He declares that only a fool would ever accept such an offer. Judging by the man's reaction, he realizes he has just insulted him directly. The stranger admits he never expected them to accept, but after such insults, he can no longer leave peacefully. He takes out a small bell and rings it. Instantly, every undead creature charges at the defenders. Realizing he cannot protect everyone, the eccentric needle doctor resolves to do everything in his power. His needles fly with perfect accuracy, striking the undead's vital weak points. Every defeated enemy is immediately replaced by another. The River Marshal Alliance's warriors soon join the battle. Even when the undead are pierced by swords, they continue attacking with even greater ferocity. While continuing his assault, the eccentric needle doctor tells the divine physician that unless they find a decisive solution, everyone will die. The divine physician also searches desperately for a way to stop them. With tremendous effort, they repel the first assault. A second, even larger wave quickly follows. Although they know where to strike, there are simply too many enemies. The divine physician laments that if Bektasin or even Kyongyuan were present, they could withstand any number of opponents. Suddenly, one of the faster undead reaches him. Caught off guard, he desperately cries for help, praying that Bektasin will somehow save him. At that critical moment, the creature's head suddenly explodes. Jan Heron appears beside the frightened physician after killing the attacker. She immediately asks whether he is injured. Relieved, the divine physician repeatedly thanks her for saving his life. Jan Heron's bodyguard soon joins them after escorting the civilians to safety. She explains that everyone has been moved into the inner chambers, although she does not know how long they can remain protected. She asks what these monsters actually are. The divine physician admits he cannot be completely certain, but believes they are half zombies that specifically came for them. The bodyguard asks how they can be killed. He quickly explains that they must either be decapitated or struck precisely at the gate of origin, where their life energy gathers. Without hesitation, both women prepare for battle. As they charge forward, the divine physician reminds them to target the energy core. Watching Yanharan fight reminds her bodyguard of their childhood. Back then, Yanharan always protected her. Now she hopes she can finally protect the friend who once protected her. Meanwhile, the eccentric needle doctor continues throwing his needles. His supply rapidly dwindles. Then he suddenly coughs up blood. The excessive use of internal energy has pushed his body beyond its limit. The divine physician catches him before he falls and suggests retreating. Unfortunately, the only exit is already blocked by the undead. The divine physician reveals one final trump card. Although dangerous, it is their only remaining chance. The eccentric needle doctor believes his companion intends to stay behind while allowing him to escape. As the fastest among them, he is the only one with any real chance of breaking through. The divine physician refuses to abandon everyone without trying. He removes a small bottle and tells the eccentric needle doctor to find Bektasin and bring him back immediately. Then he shouts at the undead, drawing them toward himself. Once they gather, he throws the bottle into their midst. Inside is an extremely concentrated poison. The undead immediately react. Their bodies convulse as if their internal organs are exploding. They begin coughing blood. The divine physician is relieved that his emergency measure works. Moments later, the undead's heads swell before exploding one after another. The opening gives the eccentric needle doctor a chance to escape while the divine physician remains behind to delay the rest. Before separating, they promise they will both survive and meet again. Thick poisonous fog soon covers the battlefield. The enemy commander rings his bell once more. The remaining undead immediately redirect their assault toward the fleeing eccentric needle doctor. A brilliant light begins shining from their eyes and mouths. The physician gathers his remaining internal energy into a single powerful strike. His attack severely damages the nearest undead. Unfortunately, dozens more immediately surround him. Elsewhere, Yanharan's bodyguard continues cutting down the advancing undead to protect the civilians. During the battle, she notices Yanharan has been wounded. She rushes to her side and realizes the bleeding must be stopped immediately. Meanwhile, even more powerful undead continue arriving. These new monsters are clearly stronger and more vicious than the previous one. Facing what seems like certain death, Yanharan quietly regrets arguing with Bektasin over a misunderstanding. She admits she wishes she could see him one last time. Even so, she is grateful to be standing beside her closest friend. The expression on Yanharan's face reminds her bodyguard of their childhood. Both realize they are no longer facing death alone. Resolved to fight until the end, they stand together against the advancing horde. Suddenly, a brilliant purple light erupts beside them. Every nearby undead explodes instantly. As the light fades, Bektasin appears. With overwhelming power, he annihilates every undead within the area. Calmly surveying the battlefield, he wonders where so many half-dead creatures came from. Everyone breathes a sigh of relief at his arrival. Seeing his forces destroyed, the enemy commander realizes he has no choice. To complete his mission, he swallows a dark pill. His body immediately begins transforming. The divine physician senses an overwhelming evil aura. The commander evolves into a far more powerful undead, vastly stronger than the mindless puppets he previously controlled. By releasing that hidden power, he has permanently abandoned his humanity. Bektasin notices something even more disturbing. A vile corruption has attached itself directly to the man's soul.